All of a sudden, it got so quiet. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Village Board on Tax Day. I hope everybody is going to get a nice refund. April 15, 2024. This evening, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Deputy Village Clerk Sylvia Luke.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The meeting will come to order, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Sutker?
Here.
Trustee Robinson?
Here.
Trustee Kuhn?
Here.
Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Trustee Pierce-Slovan?
Here.
Trustee Klein?
Here.
Mayor Van Duzen?
Here we have a quorum. First item is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. A motion is in order. Trustee Kuhn, seconded by Trustee Sutker. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to have removed?
I want to remove item 11A, the luxury residential project on Old Orchard Road. And then after we approve our consent agenda, I want a motion that we amend tonight's agenda to reorder items 12 and 13. Thank you.
Is there anything else anybody would like to have removed? Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Slovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Duzen?
Aye. Motion passes.
Sorry.
It's a,
Can I make a motion about our agenda?
okay.
Or should I make a motion if I want to switch two items in the order?
This evening?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well-
we don't need a motion. What is it you want?
Can we switch items 13 and 12? So we do item 13 and then item 12?
Okay.
Thank you.
This evening, it's a pleasure to honor one of the village's most distinguished families. They have been here for 100 years and have provided distinguished service to the village. I would like to read a proclamation in their honor. Whereas Haben Funeral Home and Crematory, located at 8057 Niles Center Road, has been an integral part of the fabric of the village of Skokie since its establishment in March 1923. And whereas Haben Funeral Home and Crematory is a fourth-generation family-owned business, which began by Ray Haben in 1923 and continued by his son, Bill Haben, grandson John Haben, and the great-grandson, Will Haben. Whereas for 100 years, Haben Funeral Home and Crematory has proudly offered caring and dignified funeral and cremation services to the Skokie community and countless families, always with the highest level of detail, exceptional customer service, and respect. And whereas in 2017, Haben Funeral Home received the village's Business of the Year Award, and recently the Fire Department's Community Service Award for decades of serving the village and the Fire Department family with empathy and professionalism. Whereas the Haben family has been great stewards of our village. Notably, John Haven has served honorably as a Rotarian since 1979, serves on the board of directors for the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts Foundation, and on the board of Metropolitan Family Services, is past president of the Skokie Chamber of Commerce, and is civically was a member of the village's Centennial Committee, 1988, and the village's Zoning Board of Appeals. And notably, Will Haven is a member of the Kiwanis Club of Skokie Valley and a member of the Skokie Foundation Board. And whereas the village of Skokie is proud and grateful for the Haven family for their tireless devotion to their profession and their success for over 100 years. Now, therefore, I, George Van Dusen, Mayor of the Village of Skokie, do hereby congratulate and extend best wishes to Haven Funeral Home and Crematory for their continued commitment, dedication, and professionalism to their business and to our community. On behalf of the Village of Skokie and our elected officials, we wish you the very best in your continued excellence and service. And so, John and Will, if you could meet me, I'd like to present it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. And representing 4 generations of the Haven family who are with us tonight, we thank you very much for this proclamation. I did have about 4 pages of comment, but due to the looks of the agenda for this evening's meeting, I think we'll forego with that. But again, thank you very much. We appreciate the proclamation.
John and Will, thank you. I would like to introduce Jim McNellis, Vice Chair of the Village's Sustainability Environmental Advisory Commission, to make the Residential Sustainability Awards this evening. Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. I am Jim McNellis, as the mayor said, representing the Skokie Sustainability and Environmental Advisory Commission. It's my pleasure to be here. It's my honor to recognize for the first time our first annual Skokie Residential Sustainability Award winners. So it was about a year and a half ago that the Board of Trustees approved the new sustainability plan for Skokie. It's been a busy year on the SEAC Commission. We put a lot of work into a lot of goals and a lot of plans. And one of those action plans includes creating an award program to recognize sustainability in the Village of Skokie, specifically for residents. So we formed a subcommittee to work on this. Again, there's a lot of goals in the sustainability plan. This award particularly focuses on achievements for residences to conserve energy, to conserve water, reduce waste, and achievements in landscaping. So we've got a great variety of award winners that we want to present. So if you want to just step into the next slide. So the first amongst our first annual award winners, over at 9131 Kenneth Avenue, John and Drew Maloof. This is some amazing rain barrel installation work, and so we wanted to recognize the innovative use of rainwater on their property, installing 2 500-gallon rain harvest tanks. So none of us have ever seen this kind of installation before, so very unique, and so congratulations to them. We'll go to the next one. Next one we have is at 8041 Kildare, Elisa Struble. Again, here is, it's a combination of clean energy, energy reduction, waste reduction, and landscaping, so rooftop solar, composting, and saving water with changing up their landscaping. So congratulations to Elisa Struble. Next we have 3526 Lake Street, Sarah McMurray. This one was unique amongst the submittals. It was a complete rehab of a two-flat. Lots of work went into this, reducing energy uses, sealing up the building, installing new appliances, heat pumps, rooftop solar, pollinator-friendly habitat. So a lot of great work. And I'll just note on this one that this is not just a homeowner, this is a rental unit. So this is somebody not just committing to improving their own home, but improving sustainability for the future for others too. So great work to them. Last but not least among our four, 8818 Colmar Avenue, Lauren Gradnicki. Again here, a great variety of landscaping use, rain barrels, rooftop solar, replace lighting, so reducing energy uses with LED lights. So lots of work went into their home, and so we want to recognize Lauren Gradnicki too. So congratulations to the winners. I do want to call out special thanks to Alex Franz at the Village. Alex did a lot of heavy lifting, helping this committee get this program off the ground, so thank you, Alex. For our winners, we do have certificates. They are, of course, biodegradable and compostable certificates. And afterwards, we've got some yard signs to award. So I believe we have two winners present. If they could come forward for a photo with,
Sure.
with the mayor. I guess we only have one.
You have the certificate, should be here. There we go. Congratulations. No, no, okay. Congratulations. Village Clerk Pramod Shaw was an excellent village clerk in every way possible. And he's here with us this evening. Pramod? It's good to see you. And the process of finding a replacement was not easy. There were 15 applicants, and I narrowed the field to 5 and interviewed all 5. I've consulted with the members of the village board on a couple of occasions as well, soliciting their comments and questions. Background checks were done on 3 of the applicants. After reviewing her application and interviews, I've decided to nominate Manal Desai to be the next clerk of the village of Skokie. Manal has had an extensive involvement in public affairs in Skokie over many years, including 5 years on the Skokie Board, Skokie Park District. She currently is vice president of the district. Her business experience, coupled with her impressive civic engagement, makes her highly qualified, and it's my pleasure to nominate her for village clerk. A motion would be in order to accept the nomination. Trustee Kuhn, seconded by Trustee Sucker. Are there any comments or questions? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
I have to recuse myself because of a conflict of interest, but I welcome you wholeheartedly, Clerk Desai.
Trustee Pierce Slovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Of all the applicants that I read, the most qualified, the best person for the job, I proudly vote aye.
Mayor Van Duzen?
Aye, with pride. Before doing the official swearing in, I would like to introduce our Cook County Commissioner, Josina Marita, who is with us. And the President of the Park District Board, Susan Aberman. And I thought I saw Michelle Tuff, who's the Executive Director of the Park District. I'm not sure, I think he's here for Manal, but he may be here for the next item on the agenda as well, our former Police Chief, Tony Scarpelli. Tony? It's an honor and distinct pleasure to be able to introduce Judge Michael Weaver. Your Honor. Just you and Manal.
Do you, Mandal Desai, having been appointed to the office of clerk for the village of Skokie, in and for the county of Cook and the state of Illinois, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the clerk for the village of Skokie to the best of your ability?
I do.
Congratulations.
I really did have something written up, but I honestly can't even get the words out. All the support here, I feel so blessed and honored. And Pramod Shah, I hope I can do you justice. And Skokie, thank you so much. I'm gonna do my best and work really hard. And serve the community.
Manal, I'm going to save you.
Okay.
You have to introduce your family to us.
My husband is here, Javiz. Children, Milan, Arya, and Armand. My mother, who I wouldn't be here without. And my support of my sister and my brother-in-law. And all my family and friends that were here. I love you truly. Thank you for coming.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you're going to do a good job. Thank you.
So much.
And Judge Weaver, thank you.
My pleasure.
We very much appreciate your being here tonight and doing the honors. Next item on the agenda is the swearing in of 5 new officers in our police department. First, I would like to introduce Chief Barnes and Deputy Chiefs John Oakley and Denise Franklin. Helene Levine, Vice Chair of the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, will do the honors.
Good evening, Mayor Van Duzen, trustees, Police Chief Barnes, Fire Chief Hoflick, and all who are here on this very special evening. I would like to especially acknowledge the family and the friends of tonight's appointees. This is a proud moment for all of you. I extend my congratulations to you and thank you for supporting your loved ones during their journey into leading to this moment. If you'll allow me, I would like to recite a poem that I hold dear to my heart. It is entitled In Their Honor. To our compassionate first responders who selfishly serve us day after day, answering emergency calls and protecting us in situation along life's way. First responders strive to meet our many needs with courage and compassion, performing heroic deeds. Experience a vast number of emotions each day. To our Skokie first respondents, we all humbly say, thank you for your service you provide to our village in so many ways. Thank you. Tonight, we will swear in 5 newly appointed police officers. We must never forget that the men and women who serve us as first responders deserve our admiration. They are often the first on the scene of a tragedy and provide security and comfort to those who are suffering. We invest our first responders with authority to promote and keep the peace. They have earned our support, respect, and gratitude, and it is my great honor to be part of this very special ceremony. It is now, I have the honor to begin this opportunity with the swearing-in ceremonies. I would now like to call up Miss Corey Calcaterra. Corey? Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Corey Calcaterra,
Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
State of Illinois,
the state of Illinois,
the ordinances of the Village of Skokie,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the Police Department,
of the police department,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commission,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commission,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Hold on. We have to get a pen. We have to do a few little signing pieces. First of all, Corey's going to sign her, the oath of office. And this is, I'm proud to give you your certificate of appointment.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and okay, officer, would you introduce your family and friends, please?
I've got my dad and my mom. And then the funeral home that my mom works at.
Congratulations.
I now have the pleasure and pride to call up Fernando Navarro. Please raise your right hand and state your full name.
Fernando Navarro.
Do solemnly, and repeat after me, do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
State of Illinois,
the state of Illinois,
the ordinances of the Village of Skokie,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the Police Department,
of the police department,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commission,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commission,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. You take this certificate. Congratulations.
Okay. Okay, Officer Navarro. Officer, would you introduce your family and friends to us, please?
Yes. So, I came with my parents today. My girlfriend and my sister and her boyfriend.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
I would now like to call on Elzbieta Gajdashova. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, your full name, please.
I, Elzbieta Gajdashova,
Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
State of Illinois,
the State of Illinois,
the ordinances of the Village of Skokie,
the ordinances of Village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the Police Department
of the Police Department
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commission,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Would you like to introduce family and friends?
Yes, tonight I came with my most supportive husband, Sean, as well as his parents, my mother-in-law, Judy, and my father-in-law, Tom, and his wife, Jill, and a very great family friend, Randy. Fortunately, my parents couldn't be here tonight, but they can't wait to see this record on YouTube. So we'll get some views. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I would now like to call up Benjamin Umansky. Raise your right hand, please. And and give me your full name.
I, Benjamin Umansky,
Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
State of Illinois,
the State of Illinois,
the ordinances of the Village of Skokie,
the ordinances of the Village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations of the Police Department,
of the Police Department, right? And the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commission,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police,
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. I would like to now call up.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Officer Yamansky, you're on. Your family and friends.
So with me today is my mom, Mavis Umansky, and my dad, Gary Umansky.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I'd like to now call up Ernesto Colon. Please raise your right hand and your full name.
Ernesto Colon,
And repeat after me. Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
State of Illinois,
the state of Illinois,
the ordinances of the Village of Skokie,
the ordinances of the Village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the Police Department
of the Police Department
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commission,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
of a police officer to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Did you say today, take two?
Yeah. And your certificate of appointment. Congratulations.
Officer Cologne, you'll never guess what I'm going to ask you. Would you introduce your family and friends?
Sure. I'd love to introduce my wife. She's sitting in the back over there. My parents, my mother and my stepfather. My aunt, my godmother. My two grandmothers that are here today. And finally, longtime family friend, Officer Nina Rodriguez of Chicago PD.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And I understand that the Evanston City Clerk is with us this evening, Stephanie Mendoza. There, welcome. Thank you for coming this evening. I know everybody is here because they're concerned about the establishment of the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on Costner, but I'm sorry you're going to have to just wait. Let's take a break, take a 5 or 10 minute break so we can congratulate our new village clerk and our new officers. John, I'm sorry. I could have sworn everybody was there for.
My feelings are very hurt.
Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen, village trustees. Good evening, everyone. Item A is regarding the establishment of 25-mile-per-hour speed limit for Costner Avenue from Oakton Street to Main Street. Inquiries and concerns have been received regarding the safety of the subject street section. The speed limit along Costner Avenue between Oakton and Main is currently posted at 30 miles per hour. Crash history, field inspections, and site distance evaluation was conducted along this stretch. Speed data was collected using various village equipment over the past year. The median speed within the subject corridor averaged 21 miles per hour. The 85th percentile speed was 26 miles per hour within the corridor. Speeding is considered a problem if the 85th percentile speed is more than 5 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. Costner Avenue is an R1 single-family zoned residential district. The road is wide enough to just accommodate one vehicle in each direction. Adjacent to the road, the area consists of sidewalk, parkway, and residential homes. These roads are typically designed for lower speeds. It is the recommendation of the engineering director to reduce the speed limit on this stretch of Costner to 25 miles per hour. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and board approval for the Corporation Council to draft the enabling ordinance.
A motion on the manager's recommendation on establishing a speed limit of 25 miles an hour on Costner Avenue from Oakton to Main Street is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Pierce-Slovan. Are there any comments or questions? Trustee Kuhn.
I'm just curious why that particular street is different today than it is with the other nearby streets that are similar?
Russ Reetfield can speak to that. There's been residents that have consistently brought this section to our concern. And then when we looked at the data, then it justified the change. Through the years, there have been streets that we have reduced the speed limit based on circumstances and the data that's presented. But Russ, you may want to elaborate.
Good evening. So yeah, ultimately, the analysis was initiated at the request of resident concern. And so that's what got us to where we are today. But we are contemplating whether we want to do a village-wide speed limit reduction from 30 to 25. And so that's something that we're working on and we're continuing to gather data on. But it's something that we could be putting before you in the coming year or two.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Robinson.
I just had a quick question for those other residents who are interested in having their streets looked at. What should they do?
So the best thing to do is reach out to our transportation engineer, Eric Sanchez. But I can tell you that the majority of the time when we look into speeding concerns, it's typically a perceived speeding concern, and the data doesn't usually support it. This is unusual.
Thank you.
Let me elaborate if I can. If there are residents that are concerned about their street, one of the things that we have found effective is to post the speed radar so that educates everyone around, whether it's the neighbors or the drivers, of what people are actually driving. And so if people do have a concern, we have a few tools in the toolbox that we can roll out depending on the situation.
Sure, thanks.
Trustee Pierce-Sullivan.
Okay. So, thank you. I do support the reduction in speed, and I was going to ask something similar as Trustee Robinson asked about the historical aspect of it. But I'm curious then, how long do we monitor something like this? How long is the study to make this decision? Because you said in the past there have been, some complaints and we didn't reduce the speed. So how long is the study?
So we frequently do speed studies. We probably do 10 plus or minus a few every year. But even those are based on locations where we've received concerns and we have some other aspect that corroborates it. We don't want to just run out and do a study just because there's a single concern. I mean, there's too many concerns to do that. But the sweet spot for the study is approximately Tuesday to Thursday. And that's based on the MUTCD, and that gives us the best representation of what the daily traffic is.
Trustee Cohen.
I'm just curious also how determinations are made between lowering a speed limit, adding a speed bump or stop sign. Like, how are some of those factors taken into consideration when you're thinking about the complaints of higher speeds on those streets?
So as John mentioned with the speed limit, you look at the 85th percentile speed to get an idea of what, not the average speed, but what most motorists are traveling at. And speeding is not considered an issue unless the 85th percentile speed is 5 miles or greater above the posted speed limit. And so in this example, it's the opposite. And that's why we're recommending the reduction in the speed limit. As far as stop sign requests or stop sign upgrades, that's a whole nother set of parameters. But that's also in the MUTCD document that the village has adopted and that we utilize whenever we get those concerns. To summarize it, for a stop sign, it has to do with a few factors. One of the factors is the amount of traffic on the major street. The other one is the amount of traffic on the minor street. And then you also have to look at crash history, line of sight, and then if you believe that increasing, either installing the stop sign or upgrading it from a 2-way to a 4-way would increase the function of the intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I was wondering, how is this going to be enforced? Like, are you going to have photo enforcement, or are you just going to hope that people are on the honor system?
The engineering division does a good job. The engineering division does a good job of putting in mechanisms that are warranted, and so there has to be data to justify it. Because what we find is if we put things in place that are not warranted, then they're unsafe, and we're kind of creating a counter to what we're trying to do. So once engineering implements it, they work with the police department in order to enforce. And so it's combination between the traffic engineering division and the police department.
Okay, because I frequently tap my inner Hyde Parker and yell at cars that are going too fast. Like this morning, actually, my daughter and I both jumped out of the way as a car was speeding into the parking lot that we cross when we're leaving our house to go to school. And there's nobody enforcing it.
If you have some areas where you've noticed repeat offenders of speeding, please send them my way and we can do some special enforcements.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Matt Jarvis, Skokie resident. I just learned, I guess, that the village wide speed limit is 30. The city of Chicago just dropped theirs from 25 to 20. And so it's surprising to me, especially with the extensive use of yield signs throughout Skokie, that 30 is the normal, considering how much time it takes to react to speeding traffic at that speed. I don't know how much data you need to know that the slower traffic goes, the less cases of incident, but it seems 1 to 2 years is a long time to realize that 25 miles an hour reduces fatalities and collisions in any event, and thoroughfares can be regulated separately. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matthew Glevey. I live at 8111 Costner, which is a couple homes north of the Costner-Keeney intersection. So for the speed reduction piece, the next item on the agenda is related to that intersection. I was going to say I'm really grateful to to Eric and his manager for taking the time to work on it. It's been about 6 years of actively talking and bringing it to the attention of the engineers, and there was hiccup with COVID. And then there was a pipeline put in, which actually really reduced accidents at that intersection because you couldn't get through it. But as someone who lives there, I can attest that there are frequently, if not daily, near collisions that occur. And I've witnessed several incidents that don't get reported, unfortunately. So I'm really happy with this proposal. I don't know if it's the best solution because I'm not an engineer, and talking to Eric, it sounded like the best solution involves like geological changes. That'd be very expensive. But as one resident, and I know several other residents in the area, we're all really hoping that this will mitigate accidents that we've seen during the time. And there's a lot of children there, there's a bus stop there, so there's a lot of reasons to move forward with it. So I just want to express support and thank the village management for all being involved. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Slovan? Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Duzen?
Aye, the motion passes.
Item B is regarding the installation of all-way stop sign at the intersection of Costner Avenue and Keeney Street. In order to access safety, traffic controls were reviewed by the engineering staff at the Costner Avenue and Keeney Street intersection. A study was conducted including accident data from 2019 through 2024. Field observations made at the intersection, a review of the street network system, and site distance evaluation. The main factor requiring attention is the crash data with 5 reported accidents in a 12-month period. A multi-way stop control would improve traffic operational characteristics of this intersection and would benefit the motorists by improving safety and reducing the number of collisions. As a result, the Traffic Engineering Division recommends that a multi-way stop control be established at the intersection of Costner and Keeney. I concur with the Traffic Engineering Division and respectfully request Mayor and Board approval to authorize Corporation Council to draft the enabling ordinance.
A motion is in order. Trustee Johnson, seconded by Trustee Klein. Are there any comments or questions on this item? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Slovan? Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Duzen?
Aye, the motion passes.
Items C, D, E, F, and G were approved as part of tonight's consent agenda, and that completes my report.
Thank you. Next item is report of our Corporation Counsel, Michael Lorge.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Item A is an ordinance which was on the consent agenda for second reading tonight and for adoption tonight, but was removed from the consent agenda. This ordinance had its first reading on March 18th, 2023. It shall grant site plan approval to convert 2 existing 7-story office buildings at 5202 and 5250 Old Orchard Road into 245-unit residential mixed-use development as an adaptive reuse project. This 2-phase development will have a nearly identical mix of studio 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The developer is planning to retain the existing clinic at 5230 Old Orchard Road and to convert the upper deck of the existing parking garage into a greener recreational space for resident tenants. The garage will have an EV charging station and otherwise aid in sustainability by applying it as an adaptive use of the buildings, avoiding demolition and landfill. The developer has agreed to designate 5% of the units in the South Tower as affordable housing at 120% AMI for at least 25 years. Mayor, I'd ask for board action this evening.
A motion on that ordinance granting site plan approval for a mixed-use development at 5202, 5250 Old Orchard Road in the OR Office Research District would be in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Robinson. Are there any comments or questions? Trustee Johnson.
So I removed this because I wanted to maintain my no vote, but also because I have some comments and a question. This project, like the vast majority of residential projects approved by the board this term in recent years, this features 0 affordable units. And so I want to ask, why does this ordinance repeatedly assert that this project will feature affordable housing.
You want Johanna to?
As Johanna Knighton, the Community Development Director, is approaching the podium, there's a number of percentages that are utilized to talk about housing, and so I'll turn it over to Johanna.
So this 120% of AMI is considered along the spectrum of affordability, and it will maintain housing that's below market rate. So these units will be below market rate.
So am I correct that according to the Village of Skokie, units priced above the area median income, we are going to be considering quote-unquote affordable housing?
120% of AMI is considered within the scope of what's called missing middle. So it houses a group of people that could be working creatives, individuals who one person earns and has several dependents and a partnership. So you might have 4 or 3 people, and that they meet 120% of AMI, but maybe only one person works in that household. They wouldn't otherwise be able to live in that unit, but they're part of that missing middle that doesn't have housing. That price point is not necessarily available in Skokie.
Okay, as it's been brought up before, 120% AMI, we're talking about over $90,000 a year income for an individual. We're talking about $130,000 a year for a family of 4. This is not what I would call affordable housing. Colleagues, before you finalize this, please consider a few things. In the past year, our village staff has presented us with a lot of data showing clearly that a majority of Skokie households are low and moderate income, and that these households are more likely to include elderly residents, more likely to include young children. We have been told that around half of current Skokie renters are housing cost burdened, including a quarter of Skokie renters who are paying over 50% of their income on housing. And this project, like all luxury projects like it, these are detrimental to the cause of affordable housing. I would argue they are detrimental to the pursuit of a welcoming community in Skokie because they so disregard low and moderate income households. So I want to really ask the board to reconsider and vote against this site plan approval.
And if we do, we will be sued and we will lose. You can't impose on a project a criteria which does not exist in law.
Well, with our next...
You can't. I mean, that is considered negligent. I think many people are in sympathy with the points you make. The question is, legally speaking, we cannot hold a developer to a standard which doesn't exist in law. When the developer comes to the village and says, I want to redevelop, and here is what I propose doing, we can't say, our staff cannot say to that person, you must do this and this, and the developer says, well, show me where the law says I need to do that. And that's the dilemma. And that's why this evening we are taking up first reading on an affordable housing ordinance, and I'm hoping that we're going to pass it.
Mayor, you are right that we should establish a clear standard for developments to include affordable units in their projects. The ordinance that we're about to look at does not do that at all. It requires not a single developer to include a single affordable unit in any development. So we still have a ways to go.
That debate is coming up.
I look forward to it.
Lauren?
Since I need no introduction, just this past Thursday, I sat in on a webinar about spandrel panels and the challenges meeting energy codes using spandrel panels. And I want to remind the board that this building is half windows and half spandrel panels. It's a glass panel to make it look like the whole building is glass, but behind it is usually like a cement wall. But because they are part of the window frame network, their insulation is not any better than a window. So you're lucky if you get like an R value of 5 or 6 out of that. So the entire building is gonna be just blowing energy out of it. And I can't see why that would meet our code. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Nay.
Trustee Pierce-Slovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Duzen?
Aye, the motion passes.
Item B is an ordinance on the agenda for first reading tonight. This is the fourth proposed ordinance for affordable housing in Skokie and continues to reflect a constructive process of discussions, public comments, and stakeholder input. It is an effort to achieve a first step for this social imperative within the village with the expectation for additional provisions over time. This ordinance will amend chapters 46 and 58 of the Skokie Village Code. The initial affordable housing ordinance was presented to the board almost a year ago on May 15th, 2023. Subsequent versions based on input from the board were presented on September 5th, 2023 and November 20th, 2023. This fourth version of the affordable housing ordinance is presented to the village board as a further amalgamation of its discussions and other inputs since November 20, 2023. Its clarifications include, first, funding for the Affordable Housing Grant Program is limited to matters concerning tenants' health, safety, and ADA compliance, building code deficiencies, or sustainability goals. And second, adjustments to the affordable housing tiered requirements is made based on those discussions. And third, it specifies that money from payments in lieu shall only be used for programs such as affordable housing owner-occupied units, land trust programs, and the affordable housing renovation program with no more than $300,000 per year going to those renovation grants, if any are granted. Mayor, I would request board action on this ordinance tonight.
You mean next meeting?
I'm sorry, next meeting.
Second
correct.
reading, yes.
I'm still trying to get to the point where we get to a vote, so.
Trustee Robinson?
That's the motion, right?
No.
Oh, we're good.
No,
This is
that'll
we're
be-
reading.
I jumped the gun. There'll be a second reading for that.
Okay.
This is considered first reading, even though it's been before the board before. We felt there was enough changes
Yeah.
to it that we would treat it as first reading and bring it back thereafter.
Yeah, I did just want to make a comment, and I'll just repeat what you said early on. This is the fourth proposed ordinance, and this is the first step of the expectation of additional provisions over time. I appreciate, I know you back to the drawing board, and just a lot of collaboration with trying to get this right. And I know it's not 100%. I know that. So I appreciate the first step. I'm excited and looking forward to getting something on the books so that we can have a standardized process moving forward.
Trustee Kuhn?
Just want to thank the board for bringing this before us again, and I do appreciate the effort. I understand it's not easy, and there are some philosophical questions, and I understand arguments from both sides, and we're just trying to figure out what is the right path for Skokie moving forward. I do have a few follow-up questions about this proposal for clarification. So following up on the additional data and information that we received from staff as well, with the current proposal, we are saying it's a mix of 60% AMI and 80% AMI is what we're requiring for those projects. With IDHA, they are defining affordable housing at 60% AMI for rental units and 80% AMI for owner occupied. And I just wonder if there's been any consideration as far as the reason why we decide to go with a split 60-80 versus having guidelines around whether it's rental or sales units.
But as, I think, you want to come up, Johanna? In the process, as she comes forward, I will point out that this was the percentages that the board landed on from the beginning. This is one thing that has not, certainly not changed. And I think when you look at, as we have, as you all have, various other municipalities, it's not uniform. There's nothing uniform, but this is a pretty consistent treatment.
Yeah, without deeper subsidies like tax credits or other assistance, achieving something lower than 60% of AMI is pretty challenging for developers. When we talked, if you recall, over a year ago, we had a slew of developers that came forth and gave us some thoughts on this,
Yeah.
And different parties who worked in affordable housing development as well. So that's 60% is generally, when you think about the 30% of someone's income within those income brackets, that covers can make a portion of the housing able to be paid for. 80% of AMI for owner occupied. Often there's other expenses associated with owner occupied. There's house maintenance. There's things that you just don't anticipate happening, surprise home repairs. So those are the kinds of things that 80%, the little bit of additional income, and that's where those thoughts on owner occupied housing for 80% come from.
Well, just to clarify my question, I know that 68% has come up. I was thinking more in terms of our proposal right now just mandates that it's whatever the percentage is, it's split between 60 and 80% AMI, but there isn't like a guideline based on whether that's rental units or owner occupied
Yes,
units.
that is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all have lots of questions and comments. Y'all, you know how much I support the concept of inclusionary housing. This ordinance does not have my support. I would not call this ordinance an inclusionary housing ordinance. This ordinance is a fee on developers that is masked in the language of inclusionary housing. I find this legislation to be pretty disingenuous. We have a very clear goal that staff gave to us. According to our own staff, the goal of an inclusionary housing ordinance is to build new affordable housing units, period. The only way to judge an inclusionary housing ordinance is to ask how many new affordable units will this create. This ordinance does not directly create a single affordable housing unit in Skokie. It does not require any developer to include any units because it allows a fee in lieu option for everything. The original parameters of our draft ordinance that we approved almost a year ago have been incredibly watered down with each draft of this ordinance. I'm not getting much of a response right now, but I want us to go into some of the sections of the ordinance. Section 5843, affordable housing requirement for governed development. This is by far the most problematic section. Section A, Section B. Section A is the calculation of required affordable units. And it has become very convoluted. In the original draft parameters, we decided to go with 2 tiers of calculating how many affordable units are required. 1 tier for buildings with less than 150 units, 1 tier for buildings with more than 150 units. And we decided to proceed with this even though there was a disagreement on our board about whether there should be tiers at all. At no point in the past year, sorry, I'm gonna take that statement back. I'll say the 3rd draft that we reviewed in November, without any public direction from the board, added a 3rd tier. In our 4th draft that we're looking at now, we now have a 5-tier structure. But that is combined with Section B, payment in lieu of providing affordable units. The original draft parameters said to keep fee in lieu at the bare minimum and to instead encourage new on-site affordable units whenever possible. In the first draft of this ordinance, we got a little caveat. It said fee in lieu is a possibility for all buildings with less than 100 units. In the 3rd draft, without any board direction, that got bumped up. Fee in lieu for all buildings with less than 150 units. The fourth draft, this entire section has been deleted. Section 5843B4. In this draft, a developer may make a cash payment in lieu of constructing some or all of the required affordable housing units for all developments, no matter how large. So my first question is, why has section 5843B4 been deleted from this draft?
The question, as you're asking, first off, to be put in context, all of these changes were based on input from your fellow trustees and other stakeholders, but in particular, trustees who contacted the village mayor, village manager, and/or myself. So this is not out of the sky. This is a reasoned process and a legislative process. That's first. Secondly, in fact, you're skipping over, and I'm sure it's an accident, B1, which is absolutely puts in the hands of this board the ultimate authority over whether or not a fee in lieu is to be put in place. We took away item 4 because it started to create an arbitrary placement and an assumption that if you had under a certain number you could get it, or over you couldn't get it. This puts it in your laps. This makes it your responsibility whether or not in any proposal you're going to approve an in lieu payment to replace a required affordable housing unit. So I believe you have to recast your comment in that regard. It is an absolute right of this board, and only this board. No staff member can make that decision. It has to be brought here, and that's why it's written that way, and it's done to safeguard and protect the very thing you're implying is being watered down. So I would say to you that the provisions of the tiers, that has been the work of the trustees over these many months. We've responded many times. There have been different versions, but that is the intent of what was asked of us in drafting. And actually, I really believe B1 is a critical component of maintaining the integrity of this ordinance by putting it in the hands of the trustees.
Respectfully, B1 gives us an option. It does not require us to do anything. This ordinance does not require a single affordable unit in any development.
Let me, if I may, first, everybody will recall the last time we had an affordable, we were told, oh, it's watered down, it lost. So we got to pick up one vote to pass it. I went back and I took a look. There are 8 municipalities in the state that have affordable housing ordinances. Of them, 3 lost units. Lost. They went down in affordable units. If you look at the 15 municipalities in our general geographic area, Wilmette, Glenview, Niles, Morton Grove, Park Ridge, Lincolnwood, Des Plaines, Wheeling, Buffalo Grove, Elk Grove, Elmhurst, Palatine, Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates, and of course ourselves, just 15. All of them, I just mentioned, do not have an inclusionary housing ordinance, and yet 14 of the 15 increased their number of affordable units in their village. It's a misnomer, and we all buy into it. We all want to find a magic bullet that's going to solve the affordable housing crisis in the country. And we think, let's pass an inclusionary ordinance and we're going to solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. We have municipalities that have inclusionary ordinances. We have those that don't. And there really isn't a rat's difference between them in the end result. There's only one thing solely that will increase the number of units, and that is massive governmental subsidy. Take a look at Chicago right now. Mayor Lightfoot proposed a series of affordable housing, 3 or 4. It was a beautiful proposal. Project on LaSalle. Not one taker. Last week, Mayor Johnson proposed subsidizing by $1.5 billion, that's a B, $1.5 billion to stimulate that development. That is what produces affordable housing. Affordable housing is not profitable for developers. We got to get that through our heads. And an inclusionary zoning, I think, I support this. I supported the last one. I believe in doing it because I think it makes a statement about the village of Skokie. But let's not, if we did everything you wanted, it wouldn't add a unit. It really wouldn't, because we would be discouraging development. And all I say is, look at the 8 that have inclusionary ordinances, and 3 of them went down.
Mayor, if you doubt the efficacy of an inclusionary housing ordinance, why are you asking us to pass one tonight?
Because I think I can get 4 votes on this. It can always be amended.
Yeah, going back to the calculation of required affordable units, when you combine Section A with Section B, this is a question to the trustees. Why do we have a 5-tier structure to determine how many affordable units are quote-unquote required if this ordinance does not actually require any of these units because of fee and lieu?
Please speak your slowly.
Sorry. I'm not going to address that per se. I want to go on record that I do believe that we as trustees have to do what's right for those who live in the village and want to live in the village. However, I don't believe that having a few units in a complex addresses the situation that we've heard about. I'm very in favor, however, of the fee in lieu of, because I believe that that allows us, the village, to make decisions, because there are places and buildings in the village that are subpar. People aren't living to the standards that we would like our residents to live in, and I believe that the owners can't afford to fix them up to the quality that they need to be. And I believe we should be taking the money and investing in the properties that need to be invested in. I don't believe that if we're building a large complex and there's 3 or 10 affordable units, that addresses the problem. So I would like to see and create a way for us to address the financial needs of our residents, but I don't believe in putting them in, as I said, where large complexes are going up, which I still believe in as well, because our taxes remain low because of what we do, and we have more residents coming in. That's an important aspect. We have to balance it. But I believe, in my opinion, I would only vote for in lieu of, so that we can invest in the village and in the residents where people are living now.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the point our staff made. Our staff has repeatedly told us the goal of an inclusionary ordinance is to create new affordable housing units. This ordinance is not going to create any direct units. If it creates any, it will be indirect through however we use the funds raised from the fee in lieu. So I will ask, based on this ordinance, how many units of new affordable housing do you project will be created in Skokie?
It actually is impossible to tell. we have gone from 19.9% to 21.8%. We've increased the number of units in the village by 9.5%. That's 788 units. That's without an inclusionary zoning ordinance.
Mayor, I want to say, every meeting you quote this statistic, it makes me so sad. You're quoting from IDHA, and in their report, they explicitly say that municipalities should not compare its data to past year's data. So when you say that based on this calculation, affordable housing in the village has miraculously increased, there is no basis for this statement.
Well, there is a basis, but that's okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name's Tom Whitaker. I'm a resident of Skokie. I live on Kilpatrick Avenue across from Ari Crown School, and I was an advocate for including affordable housing units in that redevelopment. I also recently started a new position with Community Partners for Affordable Housing, and I've been asked to read a couple points in relation to the proposed ordinance. Community Partners for Affordable Housing helps administer inclusionary housing ordinances in many communities, and based on our experience, we have concerns that the current draft could set the ordinance up for failure. There are 3 points that they asked me to read. We are specifically concerned about, 1, cost offsets for developers should be built into the ordinance, such as density bonuses, height relief, more specific parking relief, fee waivers for affordable units, etc. Without offsets, developers will feel like they are bearing the full burden of providing affordable housing, and they will claim that the projects aren't financially viable. The village indicates that one of its primary concerns is that it does not want to stifle development. Yet, by not providing cost offsets, it is setting itself up for developers to make that claim and for the ordinance to fail to meet its goal. Number 2, for the same reasons, the affordable units should be allowed to be smaller than the market rate. The ordinance can establish minimum sizes. In addition to making the ordinance more financially feasible for developers, this allows the affordable units to have lower HOA fees in ownership situations because HOAs are based on unit size. And the third point, the ordinance should have different income limits for ownership versus rental. 60% AMI is difficult for ownership, and the units would have to be priced very low, again giving developers arguments that the ordinance is too burdensome. 60% AMI for rental and 80% AMI for ownership is more realistic, consistent with other municipalities, and consistent with the Illinois Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act. Thank you very much.
Okay, could you send that to me? And I'll
Yes.
distribute it to the board.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
If I can, I don't mean to interrupt public comments, but just to respond to the first point that was just made, the original draft parameters of our inclusionary housing ordinance, the recommendations that we got from the Plan Commission and staff said that we should consider inclusion of relief for parking, height, and other zoning requirements to incentivize additional on-site affordable units beyond what is required. Am I correct? Is that?
This was discussed by staff. Johanna can add if she wants, but specifically of all the list of potential offsets, it was felt that parking was the one that was realistic within the village in terms of its application. The others, such as higher density or height given to buildings, we felt were inconsistent against our building code. And so it's a trade-off factor, but this was something that staff did weigh heavily, and the feeling was we could adapt and adjust with parking, which is a benefit to the developer, but to suddenly give credits for more height without, again, having a sense of where that's going to end up and what it's going to look like, to automatically give these types of credits, the feeling among staff, really internally and in some of the discussions with trustees, appeared to not be a really pragmatic solution for the village. As to the other point, incidentally, the idea that I did discuss this exactly with community partners. There are many stakeholders who came to me and we had discussions. And this idea that some apartments in a rental facility should be smaller, or in fact should have diminished countertops or things in order to make it cheaper to build for the developer is, forgive me, possibly repugnant. To suddenly create a class within a building where you walk down a hallway and you say, oh, those are the affordable housing units because they're smaller or because they are Formica instead of granite. There is something inherent about dignity that has to be part of this ordinance and part of this process. And the other side of it, incidentally, is you never know in a rental building, in theory, where an opening is going to occur in an apartment in order to provide the opportunity to make it an affordable unit. So it's practically inconsistent, but most of all, I think sometimes we have to think about the ramifications of what we put out there. And to suggest that someone is going to be given an affordable apartment, but it's diminished in its appearance, or its size, or its location, is, to me, repugnant.
First of all, I don't think the speaker said anything about diminishing affordable units in terms of in terms of their countertops or anything like that.
I don't want to go back and forth with you. I would tell you in my meetings with those advocates that was specifically stated.
Well, in response to
I'd like to hear what Trustee Sucker has to say, because she was trying to say something earlier.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Trustee Johnson, so are you saying that you don't believe that any developer will do any of the affordable tiers that are outlined here, and that they're all gonna ask for fee in lieu? And then they're gonna come before the board and they're all gonna get fee in lieu? Cause I feel like you're saying there will be no affordable housing.
I'm going to answer you really, really honestly, really bluntly. If it's up to this board has a very long history of approving completely all luxury apartments. So no, I do not trust this board to mandate affordable units in new development.
Hi, Diana Rumsley, District 4. I just had a couple of questions or clarifications. What is the current AMI for Skokie?
It's all over the board.
Oh, so, okay. So where would we go to find out the AMI if we go to a developer and tell them, hey, it has to be at this? 60%, isn't it 60, maybe I'm confused, but it's 60% AMI. So where do we get the AMI to tell them the 60%? Do you get what I'm saying?
Johanna can answer that.
This is based on HUD limits for the Chicago, Naperville, Joliet Metro fair market rent area. So it would be, depending on household size, you'd base it on that number. So Skokie doesn't have a rental AMI number based on the Skokie incomes versus Chicago versus, I mean, Chicago is massive. So how do you, there's different markets. So it's a region. It's a region. It has nothing to do with what we, I mean, there's a little bit to do with how Skokie plays into it, but the rents and the way that this would be enforced is through a regional approach. And there's a table that's been set up and is measured each year by HUD and provided each year by HUD. So they just, and I'm sorry, HUD is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the United States HUD. And so they just released the rents. So for example, I'm sorry, incomes. A family of 4 at 60% of AMI is $67,260. A family of 4 at 80% of AMI is $89,700, and it goes up and down depending on the household size. I can show you the chart.
Okay, so that's my next question, which I think I'm confused. When we say 80%, that's not 80% of the sale price? Like how does, it's 80% of the income gets that house? Like we assign, like if they're selling 10 or like 12 townhomes, they have to have, let's say, 1 unit, 2 units, 5% at 80%. I'm sorry, that's a little confusing how it's written in there, or maybe I don't.
Or I can. So this ordinance is specific to rental units, so that'll help.
So then why would, okay, so if it's a rental unit, why would we have to have language for owner occupied rental? Or is, I just,
The reference to owner occupied is a placeholder because that would be the next step in evolving our overall affordable housing policy. We put that one reserved space in there to make it clear to everyone that that is an intention of where our ordinances would go. If we didn't have a reference at least to it, people would say, you're not even talking about owner occupied. The idea was to tackle the rental and to get that in place and functioning because the owner occupied can be more complicated.
okay, all right, so that's where, okay. All right, awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Gail Schechter, 9033B Keating, and I'm a longtime affordable housing policy advocate, developer, tenant organizer, you name it. Before I go on with my comments, I just had one quick question. I've heard that Westfield is preparing to submit a proposal in May. If an ordinance were to pass at the second reading, which I assume is in 2 weeks, would this apply?
When the submittal gets to the Plan Commission and to the Village Board, it's been in the works for a long time. And so the proposal from Westfield has already been received by the village staff. And so there's work going on currently. And so there was no ordinance in place when Westfield submitted their proposal.
So in other words, this wouldn't apply to Westfield?
Correct.
Okay. So my comment is that, you know, I agree that inclusionary zoning or inclusionary housing is not a silver bullet. It will not solve all the affordable housing problems that people have, and that's because they're various. There are people who are staying in place who can't afford where they currently live. There are people who are working, looking for housing. There are people with disabilities who, you know, need a more accessible place. So we know the whole gamut, and it came up in the Plan Commission report. But the point of inclusionary zoning is, how can we take new construction that would be built anyway and capture a % of those units and make them affordable to people at a different set of price points, so that you have it. It really all came up in the state of Illinois around 2003, when you really had the situation of the jobs housing mismatch, a lot of jobs going into McHenry County, et cetera. So how do we have an economically and socially balanced set of communities? So that's the part of the philosophy here. So my concern in taking away, because I was surprised to see that, I'm looking at an older version of this where it said governed developments with 100 units, residential units or more, shall not be eligible to pay the payment in lieu alternative, and that's not here. That would be okay if there were this sort of iterative process, because if we want inclusionary housing, if we want a developer to put 15%, say, affordable housing, they have to have a way to make it financially feasible. And so it has to be an iterative process. It has to be a sense of a partnership between the developer and the village. And so the concern with what this looks like is you either put some units that are, you know, going to cut into your profits, or you got to pay, or you pay a fee. And I'm afraid that a developer will come in and say, this is a taking. You know, this is, you're putting a fee on, this is a new fee that's being imposed. Okay. I've never seen an ordinance like this, so.
Gail?
Yeah, I know, but I just wanted to let you know that this is very disappointing. I feel that it needs a little bit more work, and I hope that there'll be some improvements in the second reading. Thank you.
Can I ask, in response to the question about Westfield, say theoretically this ordinance did apply to the new Westfield project, how many affordable units would this ordinance require?
Have you already calculated that, Johanna?
No.
So in round numbers, they have estimated 400 units, residential units, over more than one phase. And so at that size, it would be at the 7%.
And they would be able to pay a fee in lieu for all of those units, correct? Theoretically.
So, well, we're making a lot of assumptions here. So they know that the village has been considering affordable housing for some time. They know the percentages and the expectations that have been discussed. But the affordable housing ordinance and the Westfield project are now, the Westfield project is ahead of the ordinance that we're talking about this evening. And so this is, just to be clear, this is a theoretical conversation. And so if the ownership of the mall and the partner that is building the residential determined that they wanted to provide X amount of affordable housing, and they wanted to do that through a payment in lieu instead of providing the actual units, then they, under this ordinance, would have to come to the board and ask for that, and the board would have to make a determination of yes, payment in lieu is okay, or no, it's not. But because this ordinance legally does not apply to such development, it's moot. And so if they decide that they want to put units on site, or if they want to make a contribution to the village's affordable housing fund, then that's up to them.
I know it hasn't gotten to the plan commission yet, but currently is the proposal for Westfield to include any affordable units?
So what has been submitted is the site plan. So it's looking at the life safety of said development. And so there is no narrative that I'm aware of that talks about affordable housing or lack of affordable housing. It's all about the site plan at this point.
Okay. 3 minutes. Jerry Prozik, I live in Optima. I apologize, I'm gonna give a diatribe. I think by Oak Park standards and Skokie standards, I'm someplace in right field. I think by normal standards, I'm someplace in the middle. I'm wanna diatribe against the policy, but no personal attacks against anyone, and I'm not attacking anyone's motives. As I said before, this affordable housing really amounts to charity for the world. Maybe the mayor thinks it's, or people think it's good to have charity for the world, but I think our, any fee that's paid should be used instead for the $3,000 lead pipe assessment that each citizen homeowner is gonna have to pay, or maybe a second garbage pickup, or maybe paying for no parking signs so he could clean the streets. I think our tax dollars should be used to help residents rather than the entire world. The next thing I want to say, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything, and whatever we're doing, any slow drift into anything is unintended, but I think we're doing a slow unintended drift into some type of woke Marxism of envy. I really can't understand why everyone has to live in a luxury building. I mean, there's no right to live in a luxury building. I don't know what the end game is, to put everyone in the same boat, or to have a classless society where rich and poor live together. I think the old people sitting up here, including me, remember Studs Terkel used to be a commentator on PBS, and he would say, Studs would say the happiest time of his life was the Depression, when everyone was in the same boat. And I would do very well living in Lake Forest. I mean, I have attended garden parties, I drink the Chardonnay. I would do very good living in Lake Forest, but I'm not entitled to live there. That's tough. My wife and I lived in Rogers Park for 30 years on a 3-flat. The third floor, we had to shovel the snow, shovel our car out of parking spaces, reserve the parking spaces in winter. Now that my wife has some mobility issues, I'm getting older, I'm happy we don't have to shovel snow anymore. happy we could have indoor parking, and happy we could live in Optima where we have all that. But I had no right to live in Optima, the luxury place. We gutted it out in Skokie in Rogers Park for a long time. And I just see no right that someone has a right to be entitled to live in a luxury apartment.
Thank
I
you.
think it's foolish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Earlier tonight, there was a discussion about how if the board were to reverse or to just say no to the developers at 5200 Old Orchard, we'd open ourselves up to being sued. The way this ordinance is worded, it seems like the same thing could happen, because let's say a developer, right, there's no specified number of units or percentage of units, and so it's just at the discretion of the board. But if I were a developer, I would have charged you with being arbitrary and capricious, no matter how many affordable units you insisted that I build, if it's greater than 0, right? Because, like, there's no reason for you to pick a particular number, and every single time it will be arbitrary and capricious, and I'm just worried.
Forgive me, I don't mean to interrupt, but the number of units is mandated in here. That's what the whole section of tiered is based on. That's a percentage of the total number of units being built that is required based on various conditions, but there's no question that it is a specific number when you do the formula.
Okay, so
So-
I take that part back, but whether you require that they put the units or they would pay the fee in lieu is at your discretion every time from the way it's worded, is that correct?
But it would be in the ordinance, and they're aware of that.
Okay, but,
So it's not arbitrary or capricious. They're aware that it's at the board's discretion.
It's really trying to raise the bar here, and in fact, again, everyone can look at something and decide it's the front of the elephant or the back of the elephant, but the idea of removing the provision that permitted payments in lieu in buildings under a certain size and overs, we felt was leaving the wrong impression that there was in fact a right to be in lieu, and that answer belonged here with this board that is embracing affordable housing, and I think would be circumspect as to where and how in lieu is placed. So it is a strict circumstance. The individuals are gonna have to come and explain why they believe a fee in lieu is necessary in their development. And it's not amorphic. It is an issue of policy for this board.
so then I pose this question to all of the board members, like, can you think of a situation where you would decide, yes, we'll do fee in lieu, and another situation in which you would say, no, you have to build the units? And I would I don't mean to put you on the spot, you don't have to tell me right now, but I would like all of you to think about that particular case, because that's what's gonna come to you every single time, if it's worded this way. Thank you.
I want to really strongly agree with that comment, because the point of this ordinance is to give really clear guidance to developers if whether or not to have affordable units or make a payment is up to the discretion of this board. That's not exactly very clear.
Let's give the citizens a chance.
Can I ask, what are going to be our standards for when we grant fee in lieu versus when we require affordable units?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi there, I'm Noelle Sullivan, a Skokie resident for 11 years. And I appreciate how difficult it is to come up with an ordinance that's dealing with a vexing problem that is plaguing predominantly urban and suburban areas all over the country, to the point that the president's new budget is really trying to figure out ways to put money in there that places like ours could use to be able to incentivize developers to develop some affordable housing. Like, it's a huge issue. It's really difficult, and I commend the efforts here and the willingness to have a conversation about it. I do want to. It's an issue I care about, because if I was trying to get into the house that I bought when we were able to buy here in 2016. We were residents before as renters. When I was able to buy then, if I tried to buy my house now, I wouldn't be able to. And the fact of the matter is that while it must have been very nice to build up wealth in Rogers Park so that one could then eventually move to Optima, the salaries of people have not kept up with inflation, and that's not a new problem. That's a problem that's been going on ever since Ronald Reagan was brought into the presidency. So this is an issue of increasing wealth inequality that is well documented. There are decades of data demonstrating that that's an issue. And I want to make sure we're not looking at this as charity, because right now, to date, I know of 2 families, one a resident of Skokie for 30 years, the other one a resident of Skokie for 15 years. Both have an education. One of them has a professional license. They've both been priced out of the affordable units in Skokie. Completely, they had to leave. These are folks that have been part of our community for over a decade. They have children with learning needs who were being beautifully serviced in the districts that they were in. These are our neighbors, and to me, if we're looking at the fabric of our community, one of the things that we all seem to value is that diversity, and that diversity is also economic. And given that we have in my district, over 50% of the residents that are there whose children are on free and reduced lunch, if there are things that this board can be doing to ensure that those folks can stay as part of our community, rather than having to move to places where they don't have the resources to serve those families and give those educations to those future adults, then I think that we've lost the message of what that ordinance is supposed to be working towards. So I commend everybody's efforts in trying to find a way forward with this, but I do think that the previous speaker on talking about partnering with developers to figure out ways to make it feasible is really important, and thinking about the repercussions of those words. It might just be a good start, or it may not be the right place to start. And I think it sounds like there's a lot more communication that's necessary here. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Jarvis, Skokie resident again. The idea that a board would have an easier time turning down a fee in lieu of, as opposed to forcing a developer to build those units, comes down to the proof in the pudding. The proof, or the pudding, being this ordinance. You've already decided to remove that as a necessary requirement. And it'll become that much easier to remove that requirement on a one-off basis. You know, if a developer comes to you all saying that, hey, this is an affordable project, if I can give you 100,000 per unit or 150 per unit, but not if I actually build it into the structure, they're 100% going to come into this argument saying, this is the only way it's going to be affordable. And you're gonna look at it as, we want this development, we'll give it to them. And if it's not written into code, what's to say that won't happen each and every time, even if it turns into a trend of no new affordable housing. You'll just stockpile cash because it's capped at $300,000 a year for some reason. Am I incorrect? The output is capped at 300,000?
No, the 300,000 is a reference to the program that is not codified in this ordinance, but attached to this ordinance as a separate effort to look at existing residences that are considered affordable, fit into the definition of affordable, but that it's largely because it's older housing stock. It's housing stock where perhaps it's been owned by a family for a long time, a 2-flat, 3-flat, and they no longer have a mortgage on it, but they don't have an income to keep it up. And we tend to see that these are fall into the housing stock of affordable because people can afford them, because the rents are diminished because of the condition. And this is an effort to look again to the issue of the dignity of those that we want to provide for. And so it is taking no more than $300,000 a year from any in lieu funds. Doesn't have to be 300, but it's no more than, to award grants to landlords who apply, and it's again strictly narrowed in this ordinance as to what it can be used, so that if a property has become diminished, either safety or ADA matters or electrical things, that a grant can be awarded under a program that the village manager will create, so that we start to also look to the existing housing and elevate its condition for those who can afford it. And if they do so, if they do get this grant, they have to lock in and hold their rent at the affordable level. So they're not able to use the money to then increase rent. It holds, and it doesn't increase our affordable housing stock, but it makes, for those who are in those units, a safer and more dignified lifestyle.
Okay, I understand, thank you. So,
That's
I guess
I'm sorry, that's the only place that the 300,000 applies.
well, there's only three outputs listed in this agreement. One was affordable owner occupied, which you said was defined but not included in this ordinance.
At this time.
And land trust, which is not defined at all in this.
Correct.
So where would the money go aside from that $300,000 program?
It's gonna take a while for it to accumulate, and it's gonna be part of the land trust program and the other program. And as soon as, if this gets passed, we will go to work on those.
Okay, so, and then this is limited to units that are of buildings that have 2 to 4 units only from the reading, right? The improvements for the $300,000 grant program is limited to buildings with rental units.
Has to be
2
more
4.
than.
It says 2 to 4 units.
Correct.
Okay. So what happens if they get this money and they lock in that rate of affordability, but it no longer becomes affordable to rent it out at an affordable rate? Can they leave it empty until that term of 10 years expires? Or can they, I know it's forced upon new owners if they sell it and it's transferred, but if it's not affordable, they can just run out the term, right? Use that money to improve their product or improve their rental unit, but then not rent it? I don't see anything written forcing them to rent it at that. They
Well, I
just
don't know that
can't rent it at something above that.
I don't know that you can force someone to rent it. I don't know how anyone would have a 2-flat or 3-flat and not be in a situation where they need to rent it.
Well, I see storefronts vacant all the time, and I mean, leaving properties empty is a strategy, to say the least. So, yeah, I guess it's been shown that if you guys don't have the backbone to force developers to build these units into their complexes in this ordinance, who's to say you're gonna have the backbone to do it when it comes to an individual project? When it's so much easier to just say, for this project, we'll let it go. For this project, we'll let it go. Thank you.
Hey, Matthew Glevy, I spoke earlier. I'm at 8111 Costner. I just had a question about section 46140. That's the fee that's listed. And I'll point out, so it says here, if I'm reading this right, that it's $100K per affordable housing unit or $150K depending on the circumstance. I was curious why it's very specified. I would think you'd peg it to CPI or something like that, given like inflation happens, as I just recently discovered in life, right? So I was just curious how you land on the number, and if you I would recommend pegging it to some kind of index, or just so that you have a little more room. Even you could do something like it won't exceed some value, and you could pick it an arbitrarily high number that the village is comfortable with, and then that way, if you get proposals for fee in lieu, you'd have some room as a board on what that fee is. And in 5 years, if 100K is I mean 100K is a pretty good deal now for a property, but I was trying to approximate what that'd be like. So if you could answer maybe how you got that number, and then why not pegging it to any index, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
So in our research, we saw that the fee in lieu for municipalities is somewhere between 75 and 175, can climb up to 200. So these were numbers that we felt comfortable with in our marketplace to offer into the ordinance. And some communities do increase them, some prefer to increase based on an ordinance update. So this keeps the predictability within the board's control.
I have another question. This question is about the fund that we would use to give grants to people to fix up their units, and it says that the unit has to be at least, or affordable by, this definition, by at least 3 consecutive years. Is there any language in the ordinance that requires them to keep it at an affordable price?
Yeah, again, and I know it isn't necessarily obvious, but everything that's in gray background is the ordinance that's being considered. We did attach this part that's not in gray, which is, when it's passed, it will become a project, a program of the village under the administration of the village manager. And yes, there is intended that they have to maintain the affordable price on the rental, and that's part of what will be administered by the village manager.
You said intended, but is there a way to get that in there explicitly so they can't
Sure.
legal?
Although if I had time to look, I almost I certainly thought it was in here. We will make sure it is.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, you said you encouraged us to not vote on this tonight.
We're not.
We can vote on this. We should vote on this. This is a major policy decision. We've been talking about this for over a year. I think the community deserves to know where each member of this board stands on this ordinance as it is. I ask for a vote. I move that we vote on this ordinance as is.
Motion dies for lack of a second. Next item on the agenda is Trustee Johnson.
All right, Al. Colleagues, let's be real. This is not the first time that I've proposed something like this. Potential reform for our legal department. When I proposed stuff like this in the past, this is kind of what's happened. I've proposed something. The mayor has spoken at length about why we shouldn't act, and the trustees have remained silent. And so I'm addressing the trustees right now. I need more of a response from you tonight. Trustees, in the memo I wrote for tonight's meeting, I asked the board to hold all of the board's appointed officers to the same ethical standards in regards to political activities. Our appointed village manager is contractually obligated to refrain from participating in our political campaigns, the campaigns of his supervisors, so that he can serve us and the village in a very nonpartisan way. Some of our appointed corporation councils are encouraged to do the exact opposite, even though this creates all sorts of conflicts of interest for both elected and appointed officials. The members of this board should not be involving the village's appointed officers in our own political campaigns, period. I am requesting an explicit codified ethical standard to this effect, if not an expanded code of ethics for all appointed officers, to make this clear. Trustees, I want to ask you specifically, I'm going to ask you what you think of this proposal. If you do not support it, that's fine, but I want to know if you have an alternative proposal that could address my concerns.
Trustee Pierce-Sullivan.
Thank you. I would like some clarification on the history of contracts in the village. Have all village managers in the past had the same language in their contract about refraining from political activities which undermine public confidence in professional administrators? Is that a new for the village manager today, or have we always had that, just historically, I need to know?
It's purely voluntary. It's voluntary. The village code says specifically, no person shall be denied or deprived of employment or tenure solely because he or she is a member or an officer of a political committee, of a political party, or of a political organization or club. That's from state legislation, which
Thank
the
you.
village adopted.
Okay, thank you for that.
The whole idea, when I negotiated the contract with John, he asked that the provision be put in the contract. It was voluntary. I thought it was a good idea because at the time, there were some municipalities where managers were being given short shrift, and I thought this would give John and Kate security to know that for a term, 3 years, John would be covered and his family would have security. There are some municipalities where a new mayor has come in and literally has fired the manager. I thought that was very unfair, and that John should have security. In order to be a member of ICMA, you need to have it in your contract. And there are some benefits that are being a member of ICMA. When I asked John, what is it we should put in the contract that he must have? He said what he wanted was that provision. I had my reason for agreeing to it. John had his reason for agreeing to it, but we both agreed that it should be in his contract. But let me reiterate, every member of the Skokie Village staff operates under the same provision. When you're on compensated time, no politics, but you can exercise your constitutional rights to participate in politics outside of your compensated time. It's guaranteed by the state of Illinois, and we adopted it.
So, thank you. Trustee Johnson, I do not support this in any way, shape, or form.
That's fine.
Because I truly believe that we live in the United States of America, which gives us the right to participate in politics outside of your position. Many people work for different organizations or nonprofits or other positions that during their paid time, they are not allowed to politic. But for us to deny anybody who works for the village that opportunity, to me, is denying them their right to participate as an American citizen in this country.
Let me clarify something. I think this is important. I am absolutely in no way questioning anyone's political rights. I am questioning the members of this village board who have misappropriated these services of public employees for political purposes. I am not questioning the political rights of our village attorneys. I'm questioning the ethical standards of the village board.
I find that absolutely offensive.
Given that all of you
Okay.
employed one of our village attorneys as your political campaign chair, this should not come as a surprise that I am asking you to take these ethical considerations into consideration. Do any members of this board have any alternative proposals to respond to the conflict of interest issues that we have with our legal department?
There is, you are purporting that there's a conflict of interest. It's your perception. Yes, Matt?
I read some of what you wrote, Mayor, about the optional amendment into John's contract, and it seems like the main difference between the village manager and the village attorney or general counsel is that one operates at will and the other one is under contract. Is that accurate?
Yes, I mean.
Is
it's-
counsel
the-
at
the-
will or is he under contract?
What do you mean by at will?
Well,
What does that
one
mean?
has a contract for their employment and the
Well,
other one can be.
John is the only person in the village who has a contract.
Okay.
Everybody else, police chief, fire chief, none of them have contracts.
So,
So Micah would be the same as the police chief or the fire chief.
okay. So if you find this clause in Mr. Lockerby's contract to be favorable, why not enact the same clause in general counsel's employment contract? And it is at the discretion
We
of-
could.
Yeah, for
We-
sure.
We could.
So,
But what is, why would we also do a contract for the police chief and the fire chief and?
why not?
Because they are employees, and you can't operate in a large organization based on a multitude of contracts, especially a public organization that is responsible for life and health like we are. There's no municipality that I'm aware, and I'm a member of the Illinois Municipal League, I think I would have a pretty good idea, that has any member of their organization outside of the manager under contract. And that's because it gives the village board the opportunity to evaluate all of our employees, including Michael.
But it also gives you an opportunity to hold individuals in a position to specific standards written out in a contract.
To some extent, yes, but the Corporation Counsel is somewhat unique because he is in order to have his position, he has to be licensed. And he is also, as an attorney, is under the Illinois Supreme Court, ARDC, standards of ethics. So in that sense, he is separate.
My only other comment is going to be if our standard for ethics is what the state of Illinois puts forward, and with the state of Illinois' record of putting corrupt politicians behind bars, politicians are like rats. The corrupt ones are found at the rate that there are so many more below ground.
Be careful.
My
You don't want to get,
caution-
you don't want to get into defamation.
I'm not defaming this board. What I'm
Okay,
saying is
okay.
Illinois has a horrible record of maintaining ethics standards, and to hold ourselves to what appears to be a low standard seems inadequate.
Well, the standard is the Constitution of the United States. The First Amendment gives all of us the right to participate in politics.
But as you've shown in John's contract,
And in
it can
John,
be adjusted.
and John's contract is purely voluntary. When I was negotiating the contract, and it came to the board for their approval, I did not tell John that he must have that provision in the contract, and if John didn't want, there wouldn't be a contract. It's purely voluntary, and because of the difficulty of the job and the possibility of him not having security, I thought it was advisable that he be under contract. His predecessor was under contract, and it's worked out well for us, I think.
Well, then I would encourage Skokie to look for a way to incentivize a similar behavior to what John has voluntarily engaged in.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Sure.
I was just gonna say, I've been a part of so many different hiring committees and processes, and I can't think of a time where I've talked about a position when it's not open. So, for me, this is a premature conversation. I think we can get the history, we can start to write what we think a job description should be, what it should look like. But to me, I mean, we've used names. To me, when you use the name, it's the person, not the position. And if we're really trying to talk about the position, I think it's a premature conversation.
Thank you.
I agree and second that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just an educational question. So if, probably part of the conflict is that, with Trustee Johnson joining the board, there's like there's an independent person separate from what Skokie has had for a long time, which is a very unified, strong board. Has done a lot of great stuff for Skokie. I think a question I have for the group is if Trustee A has an idea for something they want to propose and they haven't yet hashed it out, maybe they're trying to talk, process it. If they go to the village manager and ask questions, is the village manager obligated or like for confidentiality in that request or those questions? I don't think so.
I don't know what you mean by
So let's say
confidentiality.
if a trustee approached a member of the village, any employee, outside of village manager to ask questions, and other trustees want to know what was asked, does the employee have a responsibility for any kind of confidentiality?
No.
Okay. Does the village manager have a responsibility for confidentiality?
It's up to John.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I asked.
You know, there's not a textbook that says as village manager, this is what you should do, A, B, C, D, E. I wish there was. Part of my role is to serve the board, and so I try to treat all of the board members the same. So if I share, for example, if I share information with one, all of the elected officials should receive it.
Gotcha.
And so
Gotcha.
that's part of my philosophy.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. And then, so from what you're saying, there really isn't a difference, because you're under a different contract, you're under a contract, and at-will employees would have the same response. If a trustee came and wanted to talk confidentially, it sounds like there is no confidential aspect. All trustees get the same information. Does that sound right?
That's what we attempt.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I was just curious. Thank you so much.
Trustee Kuhn.
There's been so much accusation and misconception about what it means to be a part of this board and, you know, what it means to be associated or affiliated to a particular party. None of us have ever sat in a room and discussed policy decisions and said, this is what our agenda is as a caucus party member. I rarely associate myself to the caucus party, and yet I've been accused and defamed a number of times and accused of a number of things based purely on accusation and no facts at all whatsoever. And when I work with my colleagues, I do approach my colleagues individually. I approach John individually. I approach the mayor and corporation council. We don't always agree, and we try to find ways that we can find medium ground. That's what professionals do. Professionals also have a code of ethics that they follow based on their professions. And so whether it's John being a professional as a village manager or corporation counsel as an attorney, and each of us also abiding through the Illinois Municipal Code and the Village Code and the state policies, like, again, we continue to be accused of many things that we have not done, and we continue to sit here and be accused of that, and Trustee Johnson continues to make accusations at us, and we, I agree with Trustee Robinson. I from the very beginning, I have questioned why this conversation is coming up when there is not a vacancy for this position. In any other position, you have the opportunity to talk about a position because it's an open position. If there are any changes, if there are thoughts about the direction of that position and where you want that individual to take that position. You choose whether or not to renew a contract. You have performance reviews or things in place. But to arbitrarily have a conversation and mull the lines between personal and professional, and is it the role that we're pursuing? Is it the individual that we're pursuing? It becomes very individual, very personally and politically motivated. It's really hard to sit through these conversations when the lines are so blurred.
Yes, sir.
Just, sorry, my apology. Just like I certainly do not want to question anyone's political rights. I also do not want to question anyone's political affiliation. What I am questioning, and this is not an accusation, this is a fact, I'm questioning the long history of this village board using its appointment powers to appoint the campaign leaders and advisors of members of this board to high-paying positions in our village legal department. That is not an accusation. That is a fact. We have a long history of political hiring in our legal department.
Trustee Johnson, you have also accused me of many things I have never been accused of in my professional career. So the lines have been blurred when you continue to expand, because you have not only gone after Corporation Counsel, but you've also gone after each of us as board members as well.
Let's let the gentleman
Sorry.
speak. No, your entertainment is over. Yes, yes, sir.
Village Manager Lockerbie's insistence on that clause being in his contract is extraordinarily commendable. And in the few months that I've been paying attention to things, Mr. Mayor, your hiring of Mr. Lockerbie is one of the best decisions that you've ever made.
I don't take credit for it, but it was a very good decision.
That was just one of my comments. I do have a question, though. Mr. Mayor, you had said that any village employee is unable to engage in politics on village time. Does that also extend to people that are serving on boards or commissions?
When they're in a board setting, yes.
So if they're
when they're in a board setting.
So if they're
remember, they're all private citizens.
Of course.
So as private citizens, they're welcome. They run the gamut.
Sure. So if somebody were to be part of a commission, would they be able to run a campaign outside
Yes,
of that?
outside of their board.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this was 2-386B12. Officers, this is in the Illinois compiled statutes, officers shall mean each person holding the office of mayor, clerk, deputy clerk, this is in village code. Officers shall mean each person holding the office of mayor, clerk, deputy clerk, trustee, corporation counsel, assistant corporation counsel, village manager, and each person serving on a board or commission. So if I'm understanding the accusations that being leveled at the corporation counsel, that would be necessarily the same accusations being leveled at any commissioner that would
Yes.
be part of a campaign outside of the time that they're serving on a commission?
I'm not sure if I.
As the person who wrote the memo that's in the agenda, I will say I was thinking about this as well, because commissioners are officers. My memo addresses the full-time appointed officers, our village manager, our corporation councils, our deputy clerk.
So one set of ethics for one and one set of ethics for somebody else?
To be honest, I think what you're asking is a very fair question. And in a way, I'm kind of asking a similar question, because I think we have a.
Understood. So that question, how do you answer that question?
I think the full-time paid staff of the village of Skokie, I do not.
Are the same ethical questions that you're leveling at the rest of the board, does that apply to you or does that not apply to you?
I'm going to say something that some of you will find rude. There's all kinds of political appointments that are made with our system of boards and commissions. This problem does kind of extend to our boards and commissions, but I do not think that is the primary problem.
That doesn't answer my question.
Sorry, what was your question?
Does the ethical allegations that you're alleging against the rest of the board, does that also include yourself? How do you answer the question for everybody else that you're saying that it's corporation counsel that outside of his obligations to the village are not able to engage in politics? How do you answer that same question for some commissioner that is going to be very involved in your political campaign.
I have never used my position on this board
That's
to.
not my question. That's
As-
not my question, respectively.
You're asking, can commissioners be engaged in politics outside of Village Hall?
I'm saying the same ethical standards that you want everybody else to be addressed and being held to, should that not also include yourself?
Well, I don't think, you've posed a question. I think we need to move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
You raised a point. Thank you.
Y'all, as we're wrapping this up, I just want to say, the reason I switched these agenda items is because this agenda item concerns the misappropriation of in-house attorneys for political purposes. Our next agenda item concerns the misappropriation of outside attorneys for political purposes. Let's continue.
The next item is the referendum ranked choice voting and the engagement of Klein, Thorpe, and Jenkins.
Mayor, I'm sorry, can I just insert one thing on a previous matter to clarify the record? Going back to the question that was asked by Lauren at the end, I knew I didn't miss it. If you go to page 11, item G, within the provisions for that grant program, the first paragraph clearly states, all affordable housing renovation grants shall require that the affordable housing rent remain in place for a minimum of 10 years from the date of. Sorry.
Okay. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Following the village board's discussion at the last board meeting on April 1st regarding consideration of a ranked choice voting referendum, initial research has been conducted. I'll provide a quick overview, including an explanation of ranked choice voting, context of ranked choice voting within our state of Illinois, and perhaps a path forward for the village. Since Illinois voters have not experienced ranked choice voting, I want to begin with an explanation of the concept. Ranked choice voting is a system that replaces traditional voting on a ballot for electing individuals to office. With ranked choice voting, voters have the option to rank candidates in order of preference, first, second, third, and so forth. If the voter's first choice candidate doesn't have a chance to win, the ballot counts for the next choice. So it's also relevant to note the context of ranked choice voting within Illinois. The Illinois General Assembly established a task force to review voting systems and the methods of voting, including ranked choice voting, that could be authorized by law. Included in the packet for tonight's meeting is the enabling legislation for said task force. A sample of other activity within the state regarding ranked choice voting includes Berwyn voters approved an advisory referendum for ranked choice voting. Oak Park has been considering ranked choice voting, and the village board there voted to put it on hold due to the state task force. Evanston voters approved ranked choice voting, and then moving into implementation, Cook County's clerk's office, which is responsible for implementing voting, does not yet have the ability to implement ranked choice voting. That concludes the background, and so I'll move on to specifics for Skokie. The village of Skokie's new electoral system complicates a ranked choice referendum due to the hybrid nature for electing trustees, specifically both district and at-large trustee
Yeah,
positions.
I apologize, John, for interrupting you. This is a highly politically charged agenda item we have. I am incredibly uncomfortable that our nonpartisan village manager is introducing this memo. We have to divorce politics from governance. I am really uncomfortable right now.
Fine. Well, we can proceed then. John?
Due to the hybrid nature for electing trustees, specifically both district and at-large trustee positions, it complicates ranked choice referendum. As a result, the referendum needs to take the nuance into consideration. It also goes without saying any referendum question should meet certain standards such as coherent, stand on its own, be self-executing, and not be vague or ambiguous. Consequently, applicable knowledge and expertise is required to advise the village. As a result, it is recommended that the law firm Kleinthorpe Jenkins, or commonly known as KTJ, and specifically Scott Euler, that assisted the village in implementing the electoral change that created the hybrid of electing trustees by district and at large, be engaged as necessary to advise the village regarding this topic. In addition, since the state task force is looking to issue a report as early as later this month or next month, it is recommended the village review the report as part of the due diligence in pursuing a ranked choice voting referendum.
Thank you. A motion is in order.
Are you taking public comments before you?
After I get the motion is in order. Trustee Sucker.
I'll make a-
Seconded by trustee Klein. Yes, sir.
Sorry, what were you going to say, trustee Sadker?
I beg your pardon?
Trustee Sadker, you were going to say something?
Yes. Hold on.
Wait, can we have a board discussion before public comments?
We're going to. Hold on. Just hold on.
It'll help me. I'd rather hear
Okay.
positions of the trustees.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just gonna say what the motion is, which is the last line of the village manager's report, that we should allow for the attorney as needed, and that we delay this because I was not aware of some of the due diligence that was done. I didn't know about the task force. I did know about the Cook County issues because of Evanston, and now I think it's complicated because the Cook County clerk died. So I would say that we have time, from what I understand. We don't need to make this decision immediately, in order to have the questions on the ballot. So I was just gonna say that that's the motion.
Yep, and you and I came to an agreement about having ranked choice and term limits together. That's why it's here. Otherwise, I would just put on the agenda term limits. We'd vote to put it on the ballot or not.
Just to be clear, we have not made any agreement. This is an entire board. There's 7 people making this decision. We are not making deals or anything like that.
Okay.
So let's talk. Y'all, this is not what we voted to support at our last meeting.
No,
Okay?
it isn't. That's right.
Um,
The issue, we've discovered the issue is much more complicated than we had realized. And I think what John is suggesting is that if we are going to proceed, that we do it right and make sure we get it right. And that means bringing on somebody who's familiar with what the new electoral system is going to be. Otherwise, there's no sense in proceeding.
We shouldn't proceed like this. If this is the way we're going to proceed, then we should stop this tonight.
Okay.
Y'all, you all know I support term limits. You all know I support ranked choice voting. I also seem to be the only person on this board that acknowledges that our village board has a long, really problematic history of interfering in voter initiatives. Mayor, let me finish. This board has a history that goes till 2022, Mayor, in interfering in Skokie residents exercising their democratic rights through referendum. Every member of this board knows that there is a voter-initiated campaign for term limits and ranked choice voting in Skokie. Mayor, you interfered at our last meeting. Unannounced, you added a term limits proposal to our agenda. I held my tongue at our last meeting because I appreciated that Trustee Sedker motioned to include both of these reforms. I do not have a problem with this board supporting voter initiatives. I object to this board interfering in voter initiatives. That would be anti-democratic. We unanimously agreed to consider referendum resolutions on term limits and ranked choice voting tonight at this meeting. That is not what is on our agenda.
That is precisely what's on the agenda.
It is not. We have 2 memos. One that contains some misinformation about ranked choice voting and this task force. We do not need to wait for a statewide Illinois task force report on this because this report is not going to concern the local adoption of ranked choice voting. The second memo in our agenda from the law firm KTJ is even worse. It outright questions the legality of ranked choice voting in Illinois. Mayor?
As did Oak Park.
Mayor, you oppose ranked choice voting, you oppose the voter initiative for it, and now you are asking us to
No,
use
I-
public money to interfere.
I do not oppose it. Do not say that I oppose something. I have some questions about it, because when you start tinkering with the way elections take place, it's fair to analyze it. I am not opposed to ranked choice voting. Now, I told you that privately. So do not say something about me and what my views are.
You have never told me you support ranked choice
I most certainly
voting.
did. I told you that I have some questions about ranked choice voting, but that I think it's good and it's fair for the residents of the village to decide for themselves. But I've never said that I'm opposed to it.
The issue at hand is not ranked choice voting. The issue at hand is whether this board is going to interfere in a voter-initiated referendum. That is the question.
Nobody knew that there was a voter-initiated referendum. I didn't know about it, and I told you this when we sat at Needs. I told you, I didn't know until the Friday before.
Mayor, I want everyone to listen to this. Mayor Van Duzen, I personally told you on January 3rd of this year that there would be
You told me that.
voter-initiated reforms for term limits and ranked choice voting. When you
Yeah.
say that you did not know about this, I know that this is not
I
accurate
didn't
because I
know that you had-
literally told you.
I did not know that anybody had proceeded on that. I had not seen the petition. I didn't know that they were being circulated. And members, you do not have a monopoly on good ideas. And there were members of this board who had told me previously, at least a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, that they wanted to have a referendum on term limits. You do not have a monopoly on these ideas.
And you do not get to interfere in voter initiatives at will whenever you like.
It's not interfering in voter initiatives when you're doing what they want. If they say they want to vote.
I've been quiet all day.
I'm surprised.
I know, I'm good. The whole question is, correct me if I'm wrong, this ranked choice voting, it's only in Illinois in one community at this time?
My understanding is that it has been approved in one community, but it has not yet been implemented in the state.
Okay, so my point being, why would I not want to get more knowledge? I am so unfamiliar with this concept that I would like to get more knowledge. And if this KTC, if they can give me knowledge, damn, I want it. I don't understand this bickering, and I don't understand the insults. I don't understand the name calling. Please, we're doing the village's business. We're not doing your business. So, no, I'm talking, stop.
Go ahead.
I want to go ahead with the vote because we have to gain more knowledge on this subject. I don't want any more name calling, and I don't want any more of this childish behavior.
Trustee Prisloven.
Thank you. So a couple of things. I agree with Trustee Klein in that I think to do our due diligence, we should get more information. I'm not suggesting that I don't agree or I don't know if I agree with ranked choice voting because I don't understand it. And I do believe it is our obligation if citizens want us to put a referendum on the ballot, which I have no objection to, that we understand it so we know what we're voting for or what we're offering to the citizens. In terms of what Mayor said about term limits, when I threw my hat in the ring as a candidate for trustee, I was very clear that I would like to see term limits for our trustees. I have stated this publicly, privately, in meetings. So this is not new. It is something that many of us do believe in, and we have worked towards listening to the citizens or residents who want it as well. And it does belong on the ballot, and I'm not suggesting ranked choice doesn't belong on the ballot. If this is what And I did not know that there are petitions being circulated. 100% did not. You cannot say I did. I did not. So I feel like we're doing our due diligence in knowing that people in some ways have spoken about it, have mentioned it to us, and that we need to proceed, but we need to proceed with knowledge. Thank you.
This isn't a question about whether we should be knowledgeable about this issue. This is a question of whether the Village of Skokie should use public money to pay an outside law firm to do basically political opposition research on voter initiatives. I am watching something profoundly undemocratic happen live. This needs to stop.
It is not, there's nothing political about this. It's a question of making sure that if we do put it on the ballot, that we're doing it right.
No one is asking you to put this on the ballot. Voters are exercising their own rights.
And the village board is trying to help implement what you say the voters.
No one is asking for the village board's help. No one is asking for this. You are interfering. It is not any.
Citizens.
Let's let, ma'am, yes.
Hello, Odette Calder, and I'm a very new resident of Skokie, as in 2 months ago, that I bought a condo walking distance from here. I have a brief comment and a question. So a lot of this is new to me because, of course, it's my very first meeting. I haven't lived here long. Used to live in Niles. But on the other hand, it's not new to me in that the press, as in the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times, WBZ, other sources, have covered the politics of Skokie for a long time. And just as a curious resident of the Chicago area, I've followed it for years. And I have to say that without having further knowledge about the, ranked choice voting issue or other things, there definitely is a history of political interference. There definitely, based on what independent journalists, from different media and publications have investigated, researched, and reported on. I just think that voter initiatives, voter drives through petitions, and again, I don't know technically how it works, should be respected, should be left alone, and if there's opposition or delay on the part of any group or board or governmental organization about an issue, it's probably because they have an interest in either stalling it or getting it off the or whatever. I'm not on anybody's side. I just want to say independence, as in journalistic independence, outsiders looking at the village, and I was an outsider until 2 months ago, carry a lot of weight, more so than what internal people say, So Skokie has a long history that is known for a long time of dominance by the caucus party. I've never voted in an election here, but I try to inform myself independently, and that's why I'm attending these meetings, also just to hear from trustees individually. But please respect voters' desires to to perhaps enact change, or to at least have the opportunity to petition for a change in how elections are carried out. Thank you.
Hi there, Noelle Sullivan again. This was actually the issue that brought me out this evening, although I really do care about affordable housing. But I do take a look at the fact that we're going to hire, if the concern is this hasn't really been done before, is it even legal? I mean, a lot of those legalities have been worked out in Evanston. My understanding is the implementation is about a software update. There's a lot of folks that have actually done a lot of research on ranked choice voting. It's happening in communities all over the country. It's happening in states all over the country as well. And I do think that there's a sake of due diligence, but there, on the flip side, how is a law firm going to be able to help us do that? And what I see is that I'm being asked to use my taxpayer dollars to potentially disenfranchise myself and my fellow voters of Skokie to be able to choose for ourselves the ways that we want to have our government represent our needs. And to me, that is, it's a nonpartisan issue. It's really an issue of, for those that are here and trying to do due diligence, in this particular case, it's an initiative that the citizens are doing of themselves. Nobody asked the government to pick it up and put it on the ballot for citizens. Citizens would like to have the option to sign on to that for themselves. So in some sense, it feels a little bit paternalistic then for the board to be coming in saying, here, let me do this for you, right? Because those other 3 initiatives were ones that we wanted on the ballot for people to be able to make their own decision about what kind of governance do we want to have representing us in the future. And these other 2 initiatives, same thing. Whether or not I oppose or I support them, I want the choice. And I don't want the choice being made by the trustees who are supposed to be representing us. I would like it made by the majority of residents who hopefully will actually maybe get out to vote and participate in their own democracy. Thank you.
Question, ma'am?
Yes.
Who is qualified to give the residents the information about ranked choice voting?
Well, I certainly wouldn't look to a lawyer to give us information about
On the
whether-
law, you wouldn't look to a lawyer?
No, I don't know that I would look to a lawyer to look at it if it's been used in other communities across the country.
It's been used in one in Illinois. Is that
It's
is
been
that your?
adopted in one in Illinois and not implemented yet.
Okay,
And
so
as
all
it's
we're asking
understood,
for-
the problem is
all we're
not
asking
about
for
a
is
legality,
information.
though. The issue wasn't a legality issue. The issue is they have to update their software to be able to implement it. It's really about time and getting a computer program working. It's not about whether or not it's legal, right? And this has been going on in communities all over the country who are looking for another way. It's more efficient, it's cheaper because you don't have to have any kind of runoff elections. There's a lot of aspects of it that are worthwhile for people to inform themselves and look at. But what I don't like is the
This-
idea that a lawyer is going to, like, my taxpayers are gonna be used to get a lawyer to look into this, which is essentially potentially me paying for our own disempowerment in an election.
Matt Jarvis, Skokie, again. Well said very eloquently what I would like to say, but also it was my understanding when this was brought up 2 weeks ago that Trustee Sutker had, was familiar with the petitions that were being passed around, I believe, and it was my understanding that this board was interested in perhaps fast tracking and legitimizing those petitions by getting them onto the ballot. And as Noel stated, it's not up to the board as to whether the idea of ranked choice voting is appropriate in Illinois. They either agree to put it on, I mean, the language might be up for discussion, but either they agree to put it on or they let the voter initiative move forward through the petition process. And maybe those go through in a congruent style. I'm not entirely sure how that works if there's 2 referendums with the, same objective with different language. But from my objective perspective, I don't believe when there were 3 referendums proposed by the board that any outside consultants were conferred or lawyers were conferred when discussing those 3 non-binding referendums. So why now? Why are we putting the cart before the horse? Why are we talking about implementation? Was implementation studied before the referendums passed? The 3 referendums were passed by voter initiative? I don't believe so. So why now?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Robert Klein, Skokie resident. Trustee Klein, I'm with you. It's a good thing to have knowledge, but I was a small business person. I used to teach workshops, and one of them was a start your own business workshop. And part of the way that I helped people make sure that they were able to have and sustain a successful business was to make sure they were spending monies that needed to be spent within their means. And so when we talked about finding the right professional people that you're going to have your accounting support, You're gonna have to have your legal support to have a solvent business. I always recommended that, you know, if you're talking to a possible legal counsel, you're talking to your legal counsel, have a piece of paper next to you, and as you get your questions that you want answered, don't interrupt the flow, and don't take up time that you're spending $450 of professional fees an hour. Write down your questions. And if you have just one, okay, you may want to ask it, but odds are you're going to have lots of questions. And but take a look and see how many of those questions do you need to pay legal fees to get answered, and how many of those questions can you find out through other sources that you're not taking residents' tax monies to answer. I'm just a resident here, but I promise if you would like to know the names of individuals who can give you informed information about forced choice voting or forced rank voting, ask me. I'll provide you the names and contact information, and the board won't have to pay for it and won't have to take village tax monies for. And then if you decide then that you need to get legal counsel on legal issues, do it that way. But please, don't spend taxpayer monies on things
You're
that
assuming we haven't done any of that.
I'm hearing a proposal you're about to vote on to take taxpayer money to pay legal fees to get information about ranked choice voting.
No.
The village doesn't.
On the language that we would need in order to put it on the petition. That requires legalese, and particularly with the new electoral system that we have created. We just want to make sure that the language that is used is apropos and it's correct.
All right, Mr. Mayor, you're going to be, as I understand it, you're going to get a petition with enough signatures to request that this be put on the ballot. The language is going to be there. If you want to get legal counsel then to determine is this language appropriate for the ballot, then go ahead and find that. But you don't have the language right now.
Yes, yes.
So you've received.
And that's what we're reviewing.
This is incorrect.
Okay.
But we've got the language.
There is nothing in this board proposal that says that we are asking Klein, Thorpe, and Jenkins to prepare a ranked choice voting question. That is not in. That's not what we're voting on. We're voting on them to consult us in navigating the possibility of considering one. It is so vague.
And what I can tell you is Cook County is responsible. You know, ranked choice voting is going to be carried out in different places, parts of the state. Cook County is responsible for making sure that the electoral process can handle ranked choice voting, not the village of Skokie.
No. The county is responsible for putting it on the ballot, but we send them the language that is to be put on the ballot.
Yes, but they're the one.
The county doesn't prepare that.
All right. Let me also say that I'm in favor of ranked choice voting. I'm not in favor of term limits because I feel like our political process already has a means to take care of term limits, and that's our elections. You know, we have an opportunity to remove people who maybe have, and I respect your position. I'm asking you, please, don't commit taxpayer monies before, for something that does not need to get information on with legal expertise. Again,
thank you.
Talk to me. I'll be glad to give you resources you won't have to pay for that will be informed.
Thank you. Trustee Kuhn?
I would actually move that we table both issues indefinitely and let the voters decide about whether or not it goes in the referendum.
There's no second. Yes. Second?
Discussion?
Yes.
Thank you. So interesting, because I was going to suggest, this is for conversation now, that, let me, plenty of information. When does this have to be complete by? I need time frame, because my suggestion was going to be, if we still have some time, I know I need more time to understand whether or not we need to hire this law firm now. I need more time to understand, have meetings within the village with the manager, et cetera, you mayor, to have a better informed decision before I would feel comfortable voting today on hiring of the law firm. So I was gonna ask if we could table it to reevaluate so we can do our due diligence.
That's fine.
Board, we need to be decisive tonight. We do not need to postpone this indefinitely till June, July, August. We need to make a choice. We need to proceed with these very quickly, or we need to not interfere at all. If this is going to be postponed indefinitely, I am fully with Trustee Kuhn and Trustee Robinson. We should just get out of this mess completely.
I don't see it as, I see it as trying to help voters get the referendum properly on the ballot. That's how I look at it. It's just my opinion. It's because I do believe it belongs there. But I do believe that we need to do it correctly.
I'm sorry, Jeff Berman, Lund Street in Skokie. And, I think there's a lot of confusion because it is being left to the voters in terms of if enough signatures get passed, it winds up on the ballot, unless I misunderstand that. But I think you, as a board, have an obligation to make sure that you understand the complexities and what's going to happen, and to the point of even educating the citizenry of Skokie as to what the proper wording should be. And I think you'd be remiss if you don't hire outside counsel that not only understands. We're in a unique position. We just changed the structure of the village from a voting standpoint in multiple ways in the last referendum. Those have never been tested in an election yet. And so now we're going to be talking about adding ranked choice voting on top of all those unknowns. And there's one law firm that's in a unique position that objectively helped us do the implementation before. No one's talking about shooting anything down. I read everything everybody else did. I don't see that. I think it's a matter, I work in a profession where I'm not a lawyer. I talk to the lawyers 10 times a day. I'd much rather be informed, and oftentimes they're outside counsel because I want an objective source. I highly recommend, no offense to anybody here, using someone's opinion or someone's outside counsel or someone's resources that have a definite slant in terms of what they want to see the outcome is. Let's get clear, clean, objective information from an outside third party. If it costs a little money, it costs a little money. We've spent money on other things that probably made less sense than this. We're completely changing the way we hold elections in this town. Let's be as informed as we can be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the law firm. We haven't said anything about Klein, Thorpe, and Jenkins. As the speaker just mentioned, we did utilize this law firm to help us implement the reforms that were passed. We have also used Klein, Thorpe, and Jenkins in some really unsavory ways. After it was discovered that our Ethics Commission had majorly and repeatedly violated the Open Meetings Act, we didn't reform the commission. We hired KTJ to run the commission and really do nothing. When we got our first non-binding determination from the Attorney General's office about our open meetings violations, and we failed to fully comply, who did we hire to defend our mistakes? We hired KTJ. We need to stop.
I don't think anybody questions the competence and everybody was in agreement that they did an extraordinarily competent job of implementing the will of the people through the referenda and helping to guide us in writing the ordinances to do that implementation. The competence and the ethics of KTJ has never been called into question, and they are uniquely situated to give us advice on this. And the advice only comes when we ask for it. They're not, they're just like any other outside law firm. they would be there if and when we need them.
Can we talk about, Trustee Kuhn and Trustee Robinson had a motion to table this, and
Yes.
are we going to vote on this?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Can we repeat the motion, please?
The motion is to permanently,
I move that we indefinitely hold off on these two issues and not bring it before the board.
and what do you mean by indefinitely?
That these issues, we will allow that to go through the process through the referendum that's been initiated already by citizens.
So you mean,
That the board won't get,
so we just kill it?
yeah,
Okay, that's,
Do you fully understand it?
the referendum.
Yeah, the ranked choice voting, do you get it?
I do not, but most voters probably do not either, and that's a decision that the voters are going to have to decide and take the time to educate themselves on.
Oh, so who's gonna educate them, Trustee Johnson?
No, and the question is, wait, and the question is who creates the language? How do we know it's legal language, especially
well, first
based
of all,
on?
we have
Go ahead.
two motions. We have a motion to retain the law firm, and then we have a substitute motion of Trustee Kuhn. I think we need to vote on Trustee Kuhn's motion, and then if that fails, then we go to the motion on retaining KTJ. So call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
No.
Trustee Robinson?
Yeah, I vote to stop it.
No, then
No.
You're,
Yes.
so aye.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Slovan?
Nay.
Trustee Klein?
I'm sorry.
If you're not killing it if you vote nay.
Okay.
Yes means you're killing it.
No, nay then.
Mayor Mendoza?
Nay, the motion fails. The other motion is to retain KTJ.
All right.
So I would like then to reconsider before we come to that motion, unless we have to vote on the motion, that we table it only because I need time to understand exactly what's going on, what they're going to be doing. I just need some time. I just don't feel like I am
How about,
educated enough right now.
would you say we table it until the report of the state task force is released?
The report does not concern the local adoption of ranked choice voting. That is completely unnecessary.
How was that as your motion? In other
Can you
words,
repeat it because it was interrupted?
A motion to put this in abeyance until the state commission has released its report. And that way, everybody can try and begin to educate themselves.
And then the next question would be, when do we expect that? Does that go within the time period that we need for
Probably
what
a
we're
month.
doing? Pardon me?
More than likely, it'll be a month from now, approximately.
Then yes. Thank you.
Okay, is there a second to Trustee Pierce-Slovan's motion? Second by Trustee Sutker. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Can we have just
Trustee Robinson?
Can we have some discussion?
We need some discussion, y'all.
Okay.
I just need to understand again the motion.
The motion is to delay any retaining of KTJ until the state report has been released, which would be approximately a month from now. So this would not come back to the board for at least a month.
All right.
And then we drag this out, and then we leave this unresolved, and we
That's
keep
unfair.
interfering.
Don't tell me what we're doing.
Well,
Do not put words or intentions in my mouth.
All right, I want to comment, I need a comment before we vote on this. We're talking about hiring an outside law firm to come up with the language for a ranked choice voting question at some point, maybe. I don't want to talk too much about the current petition because I don't want to talk about a voter-initiated political campaign from this seat. But the question that is being circulated has been drafted by Fair Vote Illinois, our state's leading advocate for ranked choice voting. A lot of the language was drafted by Ed Mullen, one of our leading state election attorneys. The question being circulated was also, one of the drafters was Abigail Drum, who is a member of the statewide Illinois Ranked Choice Voting Task Force. For this board to think that we should hire our own hand-picked attorneys to redo this, we think we can do it better, that is paternalism.
Again, trustee, do not put words in my mouth. I'm asking for time to evaluate it, to look at the petition, to understand it. If I vote today, I am doing it ignorantly, and I am not comfortable with that. I am not as up to par as you are on the petition because I haven't seen it. So I am voting in the dark. And maybe when I see it, I will agree and not want to vote for the attorneys.
Okay.
Do not assume what my vote will be.
One second, let John.
The material in the packet referenced that we spoke with Fair Vote Illinois. I didn't summarize that in my introductory remarks tonight, but I just wanted to be clear that in getting to the information presented to the board, several of us spoke with Fair Vote Illinois, and so that information has been, listened to and part of what is being presented to the board.
Further clarification from that was that it was in that conversation that they clarified that they expected the governor's committee, and that's part of what this is about. The governor appointed a committee to do a full review and assessment, and that report is expected in May.
I've also spoken with Fair Vote representatives since our agenda was released. They are a little enraged by the content of the memos that are in our agenda packet. I personally spoke with someone on the Illinois State Task Force, and they said that there's information in our agenda packet that is completely inaccurate.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sheila Meyer. I have lived in Skokie on and off for at least 50 years of my life. And I have to say that I am confused right now, and it's not the first time this evening I've been confused. But by delaying it until you hear from the state, which we have no control over when they finally decide or if they're going to table it or whatever they're going to do with it, petitions are being signed. So if you receive signed petitions of the amount of petitions that need to be signed to get it on the ballot, what difference does it make whether you evaluated it before that point? By voting to table it, are you saying that you aren't going to honor the petitions that are being signed?
No, of course
Petitions are being signed. So it
Of
just
course
makes
not.
no
If
sense
the-
to me.
If the group gets 1,600 valid signatures, it obviates anything we would do. So no, the answer is no. This
Right.
doesn't have any effect on that.
So I just, it seems to me that you're going to be in the position that you're going to have to learn about it, but learning about it should not delay, or it should not be seen as an impediment to people signing petitions and going
Exactly.
forward to it.
We're not. There's no impediment there.
It sounds like you want to say on it.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious, how much money is this board proposing to spend to get educated by the law firm on whether the language that will come when you get petitions, when you get enough signatures to go on a ballot,
I don't understand the question.
I'm wondering how much money you're proposing to commit to this law firm to give you information that seems like it's the cart in front of the horse.
$350 an hour indefinitely.
And I'll just go back to it, Mr. Mayor, and trustees, my opinion is that this information is available, in many, many places. I don't want to see tax dollars committed, especially without, it just seems like without the need for legal expertise, you're talking about petitions that are gonna come from the voters that'll you'll either get the signatures or not. And at that point, all Skokie has to do is, follow the process. You've got enough signatures, there's a proposal to have a referendum on the ballot. And if that referendum, I guess that's the point where you want to make sure that the language in your ballot is correct. But I don't think you need a law firm to educate you on information that is there in public domain.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of that and say that.
We need your name, please.
Oh, my name is Callie Folk.
Okay, thank you.
Skokie resident, longtime Skokie resident. Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of that, basically. Took the words right out of my mouth, but, no, you're good. I'm just curious, first of all, I find it kind of laughable that you're looking to a law firm as an objective source of information, because, especially one that you've engaged in advocacy services, to represent you. The second thing is, I don't understand why you need to pay somebody to get information that's available. You and I both know Google is free. There are plenty of sources out there, reliable sources. If you're confused about ranked choice voting, that can tell you what it is. There are multiple places around the country, and there's, just our neighboring town that just voted on it and instituted it, and they have language all together, language drafted. I'm sure some of those people would be happy to help you. So again, I don't really understand why you need to use money to get information that is already out there.
Aren't you
Thank
a
you.
law student?
Hmm?
Didn't you tell us once you're a law student?
No, I'm a lawyer. I passed the bar.
Oh, okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But yeah, a lawyer's job, we're taught, is to advocate. It's not really necessarily an objective position. We're taught to advocate on behalf of our clients, and you've hired this firm to advocate for you. So how can the people of the village trust that they're going to provide the accurate, non-biased information when they've engaged in bias acts on your behalf, because that is their job? Thank you.
Me again.
When the village voter-initiated referendum for splitting up Skokie was put on the ballot, whether or not an attorney was engaged or talked to, I'm not sure. But there's a state statute that says that if it's over 50,000 in population, there should be not 4 and 2, there should be 6 and 3, I believe. And we as a village, we have a population of 65,000, 67,000, something like that. So those numbers are incorrect. We had this is a memo that was sent to the village when the village was trying to understand whether or not having 4 and 2, 4 trustees for districts and 2 at large versus the 6 and 3. This is why you need lawyers. There's a reason why we exist. Whether or not somebody that loses the next election is going to have a collateral attack to say that any of the referendum actually is constitutional or the way that it's supposed to be, that remains to be seen. But this trust the people that are going to be putting out this question, that's fine. The people are allowed to put whatever they want on the ballot. Let them do it. That doesn't mean that it's correct, and that it doesn't mean that it's going to pass constitutional muster. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that they can't do it, but that doesn't mean it's going to be right. Coming from the trust the expert crowd. I'm shocked as to how this got flip-flopped.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention, we keep talking about how KTG is uniquely positioned to advise on this referendum, and I'm curious if anybody has asked the administration of Evanston what law firm they use to implement the ranked choice voting referendum.
I don't know what law firm they use.
Because I feel like they would also be uniquely in a position to advise on this as well.
I will say the lead organizer of the Evanston campaign for ranked choice voting was one of the people who drafted the citizen petition here in Skokie.
Well, again, just playing devil's advocate, I would urge you please not to use as your expert advice as the organization that wants to push ranked choice voting on everybody within Illinois. Please, and also I would not use Evanston as a model. This is Skokie. We're in a unique situation. We're going through the implementation of carving up Skokie as a result of the last referendum. There's only one firm that's uniquely qualified because they participated in the implementation of that referendum. So please, let's get outside sources, let's be informed. We should not have a trustee saying they don't understand it because we haven't supplied them with the information. And I hate to say it, I know people are going to be surprised, frequently the internet is wrong. So please get counsel, and please get well-advised counsel that understands our town. Thank you.
Okay.
I need two
We have a
comments before I
motion-
vote.
We have a motion on the floor, trustee Pure Slovin's motion. To delay, to table.
Sorry, two comments.
Let's move on.
Two comments. One, the speaker we just heard from is the leader of the political organization that opposed all of the last political reforms. And this person is now telling us that we should pass these. If that doesn't say anything, I don't know what does. Second,
He has
June
the right to speak
2022,
before the board.
there was a 100-person protest outside of Village Hall because of the last time we tried to interfere in voter initiatives. We received 1 hour of public comments on June 20th, June 2022, from angry residents saying, do not interfere in voter initiatives. If any member of this board actually listened and heard their voices, they will reject this proposal to move on and interfere again in a voter initiative.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, but not that Mr. Johnson's ever wrong. But first of all, no one's suggesting here that you delay or in any way impede people collecting signatures. We're just making sure that our board, which I would think he would want, is sufficiently educated on the issue. That's number one where he's wrong. Number two is I have never, ever run an organization that, or been the top person in the organization that pushed against the referendums. I might have worked against them, and I think it's wrong. They're wrong, and I'm sorry that they passed, but I did not lead the organization that ran that campaign. So on both issues, you're wrong. Thank you.
Call the roll.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Michael.
I'm sorry, but a motion to table needs a date certain, and I'd like to.
month now.
Okay.
I thought we said we were gonna, it had to, no, I'm sorry, Mayor,
Until the
until the report comes from the
statewide
state.
report comes out,
Do you
which will
know
be
for sure it's
approximately
gonna
a
be-
month.
Okay. Thank you.
Just for half a second, I'm as eager to go home as everybody else here
It's a quarter
is.
to 11.
But when the legal counsel presented, you are the legal counsel, right, or the
No, I'm the village manager.
village managers, thank you. When you presented the report, you were voicing the law firm's suggestions that it wasn't ready yet, that ranked voice, there were a lot of inferences that they were suggesting that you should oppose this ranked choice voting, that,
Questions that need to be answered.
yes, but they don't need to be answered by this board, do they? They need to, the petitions need to be submitted, and then the board works on whether or not they should be
No.
implemented.
I think, very briefly, there's two different paths for a referendum to get on the ballot. One is citizen-led, and it goes directly from citizens to the process to get onto the ballot with the county clerk. As an alternative, the village board can decide to put a referendum on the ballot. And then the village board has to draft the language, approve the language, and get it onto the ballot. And so that there are two completely different paths. The first path does not involve the village at all, but part of what happened in the last 2 weeks is there's two different approaches to put this on the ballot, and we're not yet familiar enough with the different approaches to even go down that path. And
So there was a citizen-led approach, and now there's a Skokie trustee-led or board-led approach
Yes.
that has come up in response to the citizen-led approach.
Yes.
And
As opposed to just letting it be a citizens-led approach.
those are the two different paths, but as a nuance to that, if the village goes down the path, the village can approve an ordinance that provides all kinds of background information in addition to the ballot question. So the ballot question can be simpler, and then it is actually very self-executing. But with 2 weeks of research, no one has a good understanding if it is a ballot question that stands alone or if there should be multiple actions by the board. So we're getting into too much detail. But yes, there's two different paths to get a referendum on the ballot. If the village gets involved, if the village board makes the decision to do it, there's several more decisions for them to make.
So okay. So you interjected yourself in the citizen-led process.
Correct. Trustee Coon, Trustee Robinson, I really appreciate your previous motion. Please help me kill this.
My vote is not to help you. My vote is to cast my own vote.
Okay, I
So
hope you cast it in favor of supporting voter initiatives.
The date would be May 20th.
Thank you.
Call the roll.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Robinson?
No.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Nay.
Trustee Pierce-Slovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
I vote aye.
Mayor Van Duzen?
Aye, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is two Plan Commission cases. Jeff Berman and Johanna Knight.
Just to make it clear, my previous comments are solely as me as a citizen of Skokie and nothing to do with any of my affiliations with any commissions or anything else. Mayor, trustees, we have two cases before you, and I'm sorry, I'm filling in for Mr. Luke today. I believe he is out of town. So I will be presenting the cases. I'm Jeff Berman, and I'm the vice chair of the commission. The first case is 2024-03P, special use permit. At its April 4th meeting, the Plan Commission heard the request of Jose Rafael Munoz Olivares for a special use permit for an automotive repair facility at 8229 Christiana Avenue in an M3 industry district. The petitioner intends to operate Rafa's Auto Repair from this location. The interior of the business will contain 2 service bays with lifts, an office, a customer waiting room, and 2 bathrooms. 6 outdoor parking spaces will be located in front of the building, and 1 accessible parking space will be located behind the building. An existing overhead door on the rear wall of the building will provide vehicular access from the adjacent public alley to the service bays. The business, which will be operated by 2 employees, will be open Monday through Friday, Saturday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. No painting of vehicles will take place at the site. The Plan Commission recommends by a vote of 6 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent that the petitioner's request for a special use permit for an automotive repair facility at the 802229 Christiana Avenue in the M3 Industry District be approved, subject to the recommended conditions as amended.
A motion to concur with the Plan Commission's recommendation on case 2024-03P, special use permit, is in order. Trustee Sutker, seconded by Trustee Robinson. Are there any comments or questions? Being none, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Lovan.
Aye.
Trustee Klein. Mayor Van
Aye.
Duzen.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our second case is 2024-04P, a special use permit again. At this same April 4th meeting, the Plan Commission heard the request from MDG 8000 North Owner LLC on behalf of Thomas Grista for a special use permit for a co-working office at 8014 Lincoln Avenue in a CX Core mixed-use district. The petitioner intends to open a Skokie location of the Enclave co-working business. The business will occupy a 3,309 square foot space that will contain 11 offices and a conference room. Shared bathroom facilities will be located off a common hallway that is located to the southwest of the office space. Memberships would be offered on a monthly or annual basis. Enclave members will have daily access to the office space from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., though the petitioner has indicated that the only late night occupants would consist of cleaning and stocking crews. The Plan Commission recommends by a vote of 6 ayes and 0 nays and 3 members absent that the petitioner's request for a special use permit for a co-working office at 8014 Lincoln Avenue in a CX Core mixed-use district be approved, subject to the recommended conditions.
A motion is in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Klein. Are there any comments or questions? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Lovan.
Aye.
Trustee Klein. Mayor Van Duzen.
Aye, the motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your patience. Final item this evening is public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to address the board?
I appreciate the dialogue that's been here tonight. I know this has been one of the most fiery board meetings I've been at for quite a while. I didn't mean to overstate any of my positions, and definitely not in opposition to anybody who sits on the board. I wish the village manager had mentioned the clarification about how additional language could be added to the referendum that would make it self-executing. In addition to the referendum language itself. I think that clarified for me why additional consideration was necessary. That being said, I think a lot of the angst that's felt in the room is a direct consequence of the Skokie Caucus Party interjecting in the previous voter initiatives. And as much as I believe that this is currently being done in good faith, I think it's hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around supporting whatever the village's stance is at this point with biases that have been at hand. So with that said, I think Trustee Kuhn and I'm sorry.
Robinson.
Robinson, thank you. May have been on the right path by trying to suppress this village initiative. Thank you.
I'll keep this really short. I just wanted to clarify something I said earlier based on a conversation I just had back there with someone. There's nothing inherently wrong on principle with seeking out advice from a lawyer in general. However, when it comes to this particular firm, and I realize this is a moot point now, but when it comes to this particular firm, the problem for me as a citizen is that it's hard to trust somebody who's provided advocacy services to also provide information that's not going to lean in favor of the agenda of the people who hired them. So I just wanted to clarify that, just because I didn't want it to come off like I'm saying that lawyers can never be unbiased or that you can never go to them for advice. That's not what my point was. Sorry, I should have written it down so I could have clarified it, but I just kind of came here on a whim, so thank you.
it's too late for me to talk about passive house standards tonight. So I just want to thank the board for having an ordinance talking about no construction or lawn equipment before 8 a.m. Because let me tell you, Gaithersburg, Maryland does not have that ordinance, so we should make sure we have. Thanks.
Hi, Diana Rumsley. I just had one question I was going to ask earlier, and then all the motions went in. What exactly is ranked choice? Do we have like what the basic definition is it, or no? Or are we going to, or is it just?
In a really simple definition, instead of just picking one candidate, you literally get to rank them. And so it encourages a winner who doesn't necessarily have just a plurality of support, but has a majority support. I'll be giving a public comment tonight from the podium. I'm going to be giving a public comment. Thank you. Mayor and trustees, there are days where I'm really proud to be a village trustee. I'm not leaving tonight's meeting feeling very proud. Mayor and trustees, for the 8th meeting in a row, I am standing and speaking in protest of the overt political hiring and political corruption in the village of Skokie's legal department. It has now been over 3 years since you, Mayor, you, Trustee Klein, and potentially more members of this board sent 2 village attorneys to attempt to bribe and to threaten me when I was an independent candidate for office. You sent Corporation Counsel Lorge and Assistant Corporation Counsel McCarthy to speak with me on the day before I turned in my paperwork to run for office. They offered me a village commission seat. They told me I could even chair a commission if I accepted their offer and dropped out. And then they proceeded to threaten me, saying that if I didn't accept their offer, they would spend $50,000 against me and make sure that I was never elected or appointed to any village position, ever. Some of you seem genuinely confused by why I continue to be so motivated to address these issues in our legal department. It is very, very simple. All I want is to know that what happened to me will never happen again to someone else. That is all I am asking for. I've asked you for staff changes in our legal department. You've said no. I've asked you to update our 1950s problematic appointment process for village attorneys. You've said no. I've asked you to update our ethics standards for village attorneys when it comes to political activities. You've said no. This is a direct question to every single member of this board, even the trustees who are refusing to look at me right now. What are any of you doing to prevent what happened to me from happening to someone else? Trustees, direct question. Trustee Sutker, Trustee Robinson, Trustee Kuhn, Trustee Klein, Trustee Pierce-Lovan, what are any of you doing to prevent what happened to me from happening again to someone else? That's what I thought.
Wow. Trustee Sutker.
I move we adjourn.